Chapter 85. Do you smell like another woman? _1 The lady in the red dress pushed open the door and led Lu Changxing into the room. The room was very simple, furnished only with an ancient-looking table and chair set and a bookshelf, creating an elegant and comfortable ambience. By the window of the room, there was also a purple incense burner, with strands of incense burning inside, filling the room with a faint sandalwood fragrance. A beautiful woman in her 30s sat by the window, holding a scroll in her hand. Her black hair was lightly coiled up into a cloud bun and fixed with a golden phoenix hairpin. She wore a black phoenix bird mist gauze dress with its lapel slightly open, revealing her slender neck, delicate collarbone, and a proud expanse of snow-white bosom. On her arms were long, black gauze sleeve gloves, one hand holding a scroll and the other holding a cup of strong tea, exuding dignity and elegance, yet full of seductive charm. Beneath the gauze dress, her long, shapely legs were crossed, allowing one to catch a glimpse of plump and fair legs wrapped in black silk stockings, with one leg raised slightly. Her toes were hooked in a black phoenix bird-patterned high heel, hanging as if by a thread, highly provocative. When Lu Changxing saw this beautiful woman, he couldn't help but take a second glance. This woman, oh so seductive. She was different from the enchanting woman he encountered in the alley just now. Not that type of charm that came from employing bewitching techniques. But rather, she exuded an alluring air from head to toe. Merely sitting there, she was incredibly tempting, stirring fires in a man's heart. One could only say, White Jade Tower truly understood men. Utterly skilled in men's hearts. The beautiful lady saw Lu Changxing come in, and without any hurry, placed down her scroll. Her bright red lips lightly sipped from her teacup, leaving a mark on the porcelain edge, then smiled softly at Lu Changxing. That smile was like a whirlwind of flirtation and endless charm. Meanwhile, the lady in the red dress who had arrived with Lu Changxing quickly stepped forward and whispered a few words in the ear of the beautiful woman. After hearing the words, the beautiful lady also stood up. Her slender high heel sounded a light tap 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 on the floor as she swayed up to stand, laughing lightly. This one is the White Jade Tower's manager, Feng Jianyang. May I have the honor of knowing your name, young master? Han Li. Lu Changxing had not intended to conceal his name. After all, he had come in person. But looking at this bewitching woman before him made him subconsciously give a false name. So it is young Master Han, please take a seat, said the beautiful woman as she ushered Lu Changxing to sit down, then bent over to pour tea for him. Lu Changxing could not only smell a rich fragrance but also caught a glimpse of Snow White between the fullness of the woman's chest. Damn vixen. Lu Changxing thought to himself. There was no need to think, he knew the woman was doing it intentionally, tempting him. Indeed, the tricks in the city were deep. He had only come to find out more about White Jade Tower, not planning to immediately buy anything or take a concubine or buy a maid. But faced with such tactics, he felt a bit embarrassed not to buy anything in the end. Young Master Han must be visiting our establishment for the first time, said the beautiful woman slowly, having finished pouring tea, smiling and speaking with a soft, tempting voice. Indeed, Han, someone truly is visiting your esteemed establishment for the first time. Lu Changxing nodded. Young Master Han visiting our White Jade Tower is a great honor for us, she said. Our creed at White Jade Tower is to ensure every customer leaves satisfied. Feng Jianyang spoke unhurriedly. I wonder what are the young Master Han's requirements for taking a concubine or buying a maid? You may mention them, so this one can help select and recommend for you. After hearing this, Lu Changxing pondered a bit before replying, to have a spiritual root, to be well-behaved and sensible, and as for age, not too old. For appearance and figure, average or above is fine. His requirements for a concubine and a maid were not high. Just to possess a spiritual root. For the rest, he was indifferent. Now was not the time to consider that aspect. As long as they had good conduct, were well-behaved, and sensible, that was all that mattered. As for appearance and figure, just about average would do. Of course, it would be best if they were like Xu Zhenjin, on their own without many entanglements. He came to White Jade Tower because he thought if he were to take a concubine, he wanted to avoid too many complications, thus resolving to avoid trouble. Is young Master Han only looking to take concubines and buy maids, not to take a wife? Feng Jianyang asked, always keeping a smile on her face and speaking with a seductive and delicate voice. Exactly, Lu Changxing nodded. Since he had come to White Jade Tower, of course, he wasn't planning to take a wife. Although he tried to treat his wives and concubines equally, the moment he stepped into White Jade Tower, his thoughts were utilitarian. He did not want to mix feelings into it. As time passed, Lu Changxing felt he was gradually adapting to this world, and his morals were becoming more flexible. In the beginning, he used to worry all day about his wives and children. But now, he had become much more indifferent. He even wondered if this counted as developing an air of arrogance. Very well, I understand young Master Han's requirements. Please wait a moment, I will return shortly, Feng Jianyang said with a light chuckle, gracefully stood up, and left the room, leaving Lu Changxing by himself. A short while later, the alluring sound of tap 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 from high heels approached, accompanied by a burst of fragrant air. Feng Jianyang returned to the room, came to the table, and placed 5 jade slips on it. I just checked, and there happen to be 5 ladies who meet young Master Han's requirements. These 3 are maids, and these 2 are concubines. Young Master Han can take a look to see if there is anyone to your liking, said Feng Jianyang. With her arms wearing black gauze sleeve gloves, revealing only half of her creamy jade fingers, Feng Jianyang's hands appeared slender and enchanting. Chapter 86, Do you smell like another woman? Lu Changxing nodded slightly, picked up a jade slip, and placed it on his forehead, sensing it with his mental spirit. He immediately saw a vivid, lifelike image of a young woman in a yellow dress. This woman was about 18 or 19 years old, with an above-average face and figure, except her eyes lacked luster, carrying a sense of numbness and lifelessness. Despite the smile on her face, it was evident that it was a forced smile. He shook his head slightly and picked up the second jade slip. It contained the image of a 20-something female in white, much like the first, with numb eyes and a forced smile. The third jade slip held the image of a woman in her late 20s. She had a beautiful face and a plump figure, exuding a sense of dignity and maturity that came with being a young married woman. Although her eyes were not as numb as the first 2, it was clear to see that she was somewhat reluctant. After viewing the jade slips of these 3 maids, Lu Changxing furrowed his brows and picked up the 4th jade slip. Compared to the previous 3 women, this one seemed quite normal. In her 20s, with a beautiful and lovely face, dressed in a purple dress, she had a very sweet smile with 2 shallow dimples. Lu Changxing picked up the 5th jade slip to inspect. It was an image of a cute-looking girl with a petite but exquisitely proportioned figure. To Lu Changxing's surprise, this girl actually had a pair of fluffy fox ears on her head and a fluffy fox tail behind her, not seeming decorative, but rather inborn. Is this girl of the demon race, or perhaps a half-demon? Lu Changxing felt a bit of surprise upon seeing the fox-tailed girl in the jade slip. Having read many books, he knew that some demon beasts, upon breaking through to a certain realm, could refine their vertebrae and undergo transformation. Great demons that transformed could mate with the human race, and although it was hard for them to bear offspring, there was still a chance of producing children. Such offspring, although human in shape, would retain some traits of the demon beast. He put down the jade slip and turned to Feng Jianyang. Manager Feng, the girl in this jade slip, is she of the demon race? Correct, this girl is a half-demon with a cultivation level of 7th level energy refinement. She not only possesses a 6th grade spiritual root but also the high-rank bloodline of the golden-pupiled white fox, Feng Jianyang replied. Although this girl is willing to become a concubine, her requirements are relatively higher. She not only has preferences regarding her partner's appearance and age but also demands 48 middle-grade spirit stones as a betrothal gift, she added. However, with Mr. Han's appearance, I'm sure any young girl would be pleased, Feng Jianyang said with a smile, her charming eyes gazing at Lu Changxing as if looking at a lover. She has requirements regarding age and appearance, and also asks for 48 middle-grade spirit stones as a betrothal gift? Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing was at a loss for words for a moment. Spirit stones are categorized as lower-grade spirit stone, middle-grade spirit stone, superior-grade spirit stone, Supreme Spirit Stone. The spirit stones he usually used were all lower-grade spirit stones. 48 middle-grade spirit stones would be equivalent to 4,800 lower-grade spirit stones. He had just thought this beast-eared girl seemed quite nice. But upon hearing the price, he instantly backed out. And this was only the betrothal gift for taking a concubine. It didn't include future expenses and the mediation fee for the White Jade Tower. What about this one? Lu Changxing pointed at the jade slip of another purple-dressed woman and asked. This woman has a cultivation level of 6th level energy refinement, a 7th grade spiritual root, and has no specific demands for a partner. Only 19 middle grade spirit stones are required for her betrothal gift, responded Feng Jianyang. Seeing Lu Changxing's frown deepen, Feng Jianyang's red lips parted slightly as she spoke. Mr. Han, it is rare to find a woman with a spiritual root willing to be a servant, and they have always been in short supply. The requirements of these two women are not that high, and it's possible someone might take an interest in them in a few days. If Mr. Han finds them too expensive, you might consider these 3 maids, she continued. These 3 seem somewhat reluctant, Lu Changxing said tactfully. Mr. Han, you can rest assured on this count. All 3 have come to our White Jade Tower due to various reasons, and buying them as maids from us will absolutely not result in any karmic consequences for Mr. Han. We at the White Jade Tower conduct long-term business, priding ourselves on our reputation. Any maid purchased from our White Jade Tower comes with a 3-year after-sales guarantee. If any issue or trouble arises with a maid bought from our White Jade Tower within 3 years, we will take responsibility for addressing the matter and provide a satisfactory solution to the client, Feng Jianyang said, lifting her teacup for a sip, lips curled in a seductive smile, her voice confident. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. If she dared to make such a promise, it probably wasn't a significant issue. However, he still felt that such maids were not very reliable. He couldn't help but ask, doesn't the White Jade Tower have any maids with spiritual roots who have been nurtured from a young age? He was almost certain that this White Jade Tower was the same one where Hong Yi had bought Zhou and Shu'er. He remembered Hong Yi mentioning that the 2 girls were orphans raised by the White Jade Tower from a young age. It seems Mr. Han is also somewhat informed about our White Jade Tower. Indeed, our White Jade Tower does rear its own young maids, but those with spiritual roots are always in high demand. They are pre-booked each year and bought up quickly. If Mr. Han wishes to purchase such maids, he would need to make a reservation in advance, Feng Jianyang said with a light laugh. Hearing this, Lu Changxing felt somewhat disappointed. He had initially hoped to buy a few maids or pets like Zhou and Shu'er, who possessed spiritual roots. Chapter 87. Do you smell like another woman? Now it seems that maids with spiritual roots are highly sought after and not so easy to buy, as their prices are not cheap. That seems normal enough. After all, there are more men than women in the cultivation world. Not all cultivators are indifferent to desires and dedicated solely to arduous cultivation. Moreover, it's not just loose cultivators who purchase maids with spiritual roots. Many cultivation families also buy such maids with spiritual roots for their future generations. May I know the circumstances of these 3 maids and their prices? Lu Changxing sighed, pointed to the 3 maids listed on the jade slip on the table, and asked. It was clear that these 3 women had probably fallen on hard times and ended up at White Jade Tower to be sold as maids. They were indeed pitiable, unfortunate souls. If possible, one should lend a hand to save them, after all. To bear one's children, that must be better than their current situation, right? Besides, they would have no better way to repay a life-saving favor than to offer themselves and bear children as repayment. That seemed quite reasonable. This woman is at the 2nd level energy refinement, with a 9th grade spiritual root, and the price is 150 spirit stones. This woman is at the 4th level energy refinement, with a 7th grade spiritual root, and the price is 650 spirit stones. This woman is at the 6th level energy refinement, with a 6th grade spiritual root, and the price is 15 middle grade spirit stones. Feng Jianyang pointed to each of the 3 jade slips and introduced them one by one. Hearing these prices, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. The prices seemed acceptable to him. The first woman was just 150 spirit stones. Merely the price of a middle-grade magic artifact. Today, he had spent over 400 spirit stones on several artifacts. Are the prices of these three set according to their spiritual roots and cultivation levels? Lu Changxing asked curiously. After all, the prices of the three women varied greatly, and there was a substantial difference in their spiritual roots and cultivation levels as well. Spiritual root and cultivation level, appearance, and other factors are the main reasons, Feng Junyang said softly. Does Master Han have someone in mind? Let's go with this one, Lu Changxing pondered for a moment, pointing to the first woman, priced at 150 spirit stones. Right now, he could only afford this maid. The main reason was that he was still uncertain about maids from White Jade Tower. He thought to start by buying a cheaper one to test the waters and see how it went. If it turned out to be satisfactory and without any issues, he would become a regular customer of White Jade Tower in the future. But if, upon arrival, he felt it wasn't right, he would take the loss of 150 spirit stones as a lesson learned. By the way, Manager Feng, there are no issues with the maid's health, right? Like, any problems with fertility? Lu Changxing suddenly thought of something important and asked. His main purpose for buying a maid was to father children, so he naturally had to make sure of that detail. Upon hearing this, Feng Junyang laughed coquettishly and said in an extremely charming manner, Master Han can rest assured on that account. If you decide to purchase, our White Jade Tower will provide you with all the information on the maid and ensure she undergoes a complete health examination to confirm there are no issues whatsoever. However, this woman is not currently in Nine Dragons Market, she's at another branch of our White Jade Tower. If Master Han is certain he wants her, a deposit is required first so that I can have her sent over, Feng Junyang said as such. Fine, how much is the deposit, and how long will it take for her to be delivered? Having confirmed the purchase, Lu Changxing didn't dawdle or hesitate. The price for this maid is 150 spirit stones, with a deposit of 30 spirit stones. As for how long it will take to deliver her, I don't have an exact time and will need to give you a response later, young Master Han. However, the time will not exceed 1 month, no matter how long it takes. Feng Junyang said with a smile. Okay, Lu Changxing took out 30 spirit stones. Then Feng Junyang produced a spiritual contract and a set of information on the maid. Lu Changxing picked them up to examine. The contents of the spiritual contract were straightforward. Lu Changxing had paid a deposit of 30 spirit stones, and if he decided not to proceed with the purchase, the deposit would not be refunded. Moreover, White Jade Tower must deliver the person within a month, and if they were unable to do so, or if the person did not match the description provided, they would not only refund the spirit stones but also provide double the compensation. The information were the details regarding the maid Lu Changxing was purchasing. The woman's name was Xiao Yuyao, 19 years old, and belonged to an energy refining family. As her family had been destroyed, she had been sold to White Jade Tower. In terms of health, she was in perfect condition and still a virgin, without any issues. After reviewing the information, Lu Changxing signed the contract. If young Master Han resides in the Nine Dragons Market, you can tell me your address, so once the person is delivered, I can have someone notify you directly, Feng Junyang said, dividing the spiritual contract so that each had a copy and giving Lu Changxing a seductive smile. Okay, when she arrives, you can send someone to notify me at the Lu family spiritual talisman shop in Jianghu. Lu Changxing didn't hide his address. Firstly, as the reputation of White Jade Tower was quite good, he didn't need to worry about any potential issues, and it indeed made things much more convenient. Secondly, it was a way to show that he wasn't a loose cultivator and had the backing of the Jianghu Lu family. Hearing Lu Changxing mention the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Jianghu, Feng Junyang didn't show any change in expression. Her red lips curled into an enticing smile. All right, no problem. As soon as the maid is delivered, I will send someone to notify the young master at the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Jianghu. Okay, in that case, I shall take my leave now. Lu Changxing put away the spiritual contract and rose to bid farewell. If young Master Han visits White Jade Tower in future, simply ask for me by letting the maids know, Feng Junyang said laughingly, her demeanor oozing allure. All right, Lu Changxing let out a long sigh of relief after exiting the White Jade Tower. He thought the manageress of White Jade Tower was quite the enchantress, with every movement she made filled with seduction. I wonder if the White Jade Tower sells its own people? A thought suddenly flashed through Lu Changxing's mind. With a grin and a shake of his head, he cast aside such whimsical thoughts and headed towards the spiritual talisman shop. A quarter of an hour later, upon returning to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing nodded slightly to a few employees and went straight to the third floor. Upon reaching the third floor, he saw Lu Miaoge, who was sitting by the window deeply engrossed in reading a book, with her long, beautiful hair falling loosely over her shoulders, and her white dress clinging to her body, revealing her graceful figure. Hearing some noise, she slightly turned her stunning profile towards Lu Changxing and gave a small nod. "Changxing, you're back." "Sister Miaoge," Lu Changxing smiled and nodded. The sight of Lu Miaoge reading reminded him of Feng Jionyang from the White Jade Tower. When he had entered the room, Feng Jionyang was also sitting by the window reading a book, but the two had completely different reading demeanors and styles. Just as Lu Changxing sat down, Lu Miaoge suddenly furrowed her delicate brows, gazing at him as she sniffed lightly. Chapter 88, Treasure Bone Technique, Your maid has arrived. _1 Lu Changxing noticed Lu Miaoge's subtle actions. He too sniffed gently. Immediately, he detected a faint scent of sandalwood and a woman's fragrance on himself. It was left behind in the White Jade Tower while discussing matters with Feng Jionyang. "Miss wouldn't think that I went to visit a brothel, right?" Looking at Lu Miaoge's expressionless and detached demeanor, Lu Changxing didn't know why, but he felt a slight pause in his heart. A feeling of guilt unexpectedly arose. But the next moment, thinking that he only went to the White Jade Tower to buy a maid, not to visit a brothel, what was there to feel guilty about? "Sister Miaoge, I just passed by the White Jade Tower on my way back. Thinking of buying a maid, I went in to inquire about it," he added. "By the way, is the White Jade Tower reliable?" Lu Changxing found a topic to talk about, using it as a way to explain the fragrance on his body. As for buying a maid, he had no intention of hiding it. After all, it wasn't something shameful, there was nothing to conceal. Eventually, when the maid arrived, he would bring her back and keep her by his side, so it was better to inform Lu Miaoge now. The White Jade Tower? At that, Lu Miaoge was slightly taken aback, hearing a hint of explanation in Lu Changxing's words. She said softly, "The White Jade Tower is almost everywhere in the marketplaces of Jianghu country, and I haven't heard of any issues. Its reputation is quite good. I've heard that the White Jade Tower not only has a presence in Jianghu country but also has influence in many countries within the southern wilderness cultivation realm, with a nascent soul true monarch backing it." Lu Miaoge remarked. "They have influence in other countries, and a nascent soul true monarch backing them?" Lu Changxing was surprised upon hearing this. As someone who loved to read, he certainly understood that this world was vast beyond measure. Jianghu country was but a small part of it. His realm was called the Southern Wilderness. In the Southern Wilderness, there were well over 100 countries like Jianghu country. Jianghu country had only one nascent soul true monarch to guard it, ranking it as average among these countries. However, the White Jade Tower's ability to establish itself in multiple countries was certainly no small feat. Most likely, there wasn't just one nascent soul true monarch behind it. Indeed, one wouldn't dare to conduct such business without some strength. "Changxing, for us cultivators, our cultivation level is fundamental," she stated. "Although your spiritual root talent is average, you have an exceptional talent in the talisman path. If you can become a second-grade talisman master, there might be hope for you to achieve foundation establishment in the future," Lu Miaoge spoke softly. Through prolonged contact, she could tell that Lu Changxing was not the type to be merely indulged in the pleasures of women. He was very ambitious. His marrying and taking concubines was due to his poor spiritual root, knowing that the path of immortality was out of reach. Hence, through his family, he sought to continue his pursuit of immortality through his lineage. "Sister Miaoge, I understand," Lu Changxing sincerely acknowledged, knowing that Lu Miaoge meant well, and he wouldn't refute her words. After all, what Lu Miaoge said was true. In the cultivation world, only one's cultivation level and strength were fundamental. Family heritage, lineage, leaving a mark in history, none of those mattered as much as one's own cultivation and strength, one's own longevity and becoming a legend. I take wives and concubines and sire children, all for the sake to become an immortal, to pursue longevity and become a legend in history. Lu Changsheng's eyes glittered with depth and determination. Seeing the firmness in Lu Changsheng's eyes, Lu Miaoge thought he was taking her words to heart. She couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. She had a rather favorable impression of Lu Changsheng. A young man from a secular farming household, with only a 9th-grade spiritual root, rejected by the immortal sects, sought to pursue immortality by joining the Lu family as a son-in-law. Yet, he rose step by step through the talisman path, reaching this point with the status of a son-in-law. To her, that achievement had outdone many others. After chatting for a while, Lu Changsheng headed to the resting room. By now, this third-floor resting room had become his own room. Inside the resting room, Lu Changsheng took out the magical treasure fragment he had purchased at the marketplace. I wonder if this thing really is a fragment of a magical treasure, he thought. If it is, then I've struck it rich. Lu Changsheng looked at the uneven black iron piece in his hand and mumbled to himself. Without further ado, he began to refine the black iron block using the sacrificial refinement technique of the 100 Refinements treasure body art. If he succeeded in the refinement, it would confirm that the block was indeed a fragment of a magical treasure and could be integrated into his body as part of the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. Tisk. As Lu Changsheng's mental spirit surged with spiritual power, like an invisible flame, he started refining the black iron block before him. Under the influence of his mental spirit, the black iron block revealed a faint dark glow. As time passed, Lu Changsheng expended all of his spiritual power and exhaled deeply. Is this black iron piece actually a magical treasure fragment? However, all the inscriptions within are destroyed, possessing no special effects. It must be just a fragment of some large magical treasure. Nevertheless, it is sufficient. As long as I refine this magical treasure fragment and integrate it into my body, my 100 Refinements treasure body technique will progress rapidly. Lu Changsheng, looking at the black iron block before him, showed a weary yet surprised expression. Through the refinement he just performed, he had confirmed that the black iron block was indeed a fragment of a magical treasure, albeit a thoroughly damaged one. Inside, all enchantments and special effects were gone. It was simply a particularly hard material. However, even in this damaged state, it wasn't easy for him, a mere 4th-level energy refinement weakling, to refine it and integrate it into his body. Probably, it would take him the better part of a month to complete. Lu Changsheng took out some jade bamboo wine, drank a sip, then took out a spirit stone and held it in his hand, starting to recover his spiritual power. Chapter 89, Treasure Bone Technique, Your maid has been delivered. Just like that, after cultivating until evening, Lu Miaoge knocked on the door, and then he left the room. He left the spiritual talisman shop with Lu Miaoge and returned to the eastern district, to the Lu family courtyard. In the following days, Lu Changsheng devoted his time to talisman making, cultivation, and refining the black iron chunk. He moved back and forth between the Lu family courtyard and the spiritual talisman shop. Whenever there was an issue in the shop that required the owner's intervention, Lu Miaoge would tell Lu Changsheng how to handle it and let him take care of it. During this period, Lu Miaocheng also came to find Lu Changsheng several times. He invited him to read or to enjoy some tea. But Lu Changsheng declined every time. One reason was that Lu Miaoge had told him to avoid associating too much with Lu Miaocheng, so he kept his distance. Another was that he felt somewhat averse to this kind of place deep down. Why not buy a few maids or take a few concubines? Isn't that nice? In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. At the 9 Dragons marketplace, on the 3rd floor of the spiritual talisman shop. Inside the resting room, Lu Changsheng looked at the black iron chunk floating before him, showing a delighted expression in his eyes. After his half-month-long refining, this magical treasure fragment was finally fully refined by him and could be condensed into his body. Condense. Lu Changsheng spread open his chest, revealing his muscles marked with flowing lines. Then he formed a spell with his hands and pointed toward the black iron chunk. The black iron chunk slowly entered his chest, integrating bit by bit with it. The 100 Refinements treasure body art could refine the body into an unrivaled magical treasure in one go, or it could be trained gradually, part by part. Therefore, the method of refining with the aid of magical treasures could also be applied to different parts of the body. In the method of condensation, there are 7 parts in the human body where magical treasures can be condensed into. These parts are the skull, sternum, spine, and limbs, a total of 7 parts. Among them, the limbs pertain to the individual refinement of each part. The sternum, spine, and skull can affect the entire body. However, condensing into these 3 parts is much more dangerous. Especially the skull, which involves the brain, is extremely perilous, and a single misstep could result in self-injury. Luckily, having mastered the 100 Refinements treasure body art completely, Lu Changxing had a fair amount of confidence in condensing into his sternum. After some time, the black iron chunk fully entered Lu Changxing's chest and was condensed into his sternum. On his chest, one could faintly make out the uneven pattern of the black iron chunk. So ugly. Lu Changxing looked at the pattern on his chest, resembling a birthmark tattoo, and pursed his lips in distaste. But ugliness aside, for the sake of cultivation, it's a small price to pay. With the assistance of this magical treasure fragment, I estimate that at most half a year, no, with my own daily cultivation, within 3 to 4 months, I could master the 100 Refinements treasure body art. Lu Changxing quietly felt the effects brought about by the magical treasure fragment. Now, the 100 Refinements treasure body art, like the Immortal beauty technique after foundation establishment with the 5 elements spiritual materials, was able to cultivate automatically, nourishing the whole body. This magical treasure fragment won't support my cultivation for too long, at most only for 1 year. But 1 year is enough, perhaps by that time, it'll draw a magical treasure through the system. With a magical treasure, if I can condense it into my body for cultivation, my 100 Refinements treasure body art will truly progress at a rapid pace. Lu Changxing's eyes flickered as he murmured to himself. After making initial progress with the 100 Refinements treasure body art, I can also start to cultivate the Baogu method. Using the power of magical treasures to nurture the sternum, hand bones, leg bones, spinal bones, and skull, turning the human skeleton into treasure bones. Once the treasure bones are formed, they're like spirit talismans, and even in the Qi refinement realm, I could exert part of a magical treasure's power. Lu Changxing licked his lips in anticipation. The 100 Refinements treasure body art, being an orthodox level cultivation technique, naturally contained innumerable mysteries. It had not only cultivation methods but also various supporting techniques like condensing magical treasures and the Baogu method. After finishing the refinement of the magical treasure fragment, Lu Changxing noticed it was still early, and it had been quite some time since his last visit to Southwest Street. He mentioned to Lu Miaoge that he was going out for a while. Lu Miaoge did not ask too many questions or make further comments. Once outside, just like he did before, Lu Changxing changed his appearance and visited 3 spirit talisman shops, selling over 100 low-grade talismans and more than 30 middle-grade talismans, earning a total of 259 spirit stones. After each trip, Lu Changxing would find an inn, change his appearance and clothes again. He also made it a routine to check whether anyone was keeping tabs on him. Under the effect of the purification talisman, there was no issue with him. However, at this moment, one of the spirit stones he had just received began to emit strands of black smoke. Just for selling a few talismans, being watched? Little Talisman Hall, I've noted you. Lu Changxing narrowed his eyes slightly as he watched the black smoke billowing out. He hadn't expected that just selling a few dozen talismans in one shop would attract attention. It might also be because I have sold talismans at this Little Talisman Hall before, and the shopkeeper saw through me this time. Lu Changxing speculated in his mind. After all, his ability to disguise wasn't all that sophisticated. And in the 9 Dragons marketplace, everyone living off their wits had their own means, so it was plausible for someone to notice something odd. Looks like you'll need to lay low for a while. Lu Changxing slightly frowned, then took out another high-grade purification talisman. He applied it to himself and everything in his storage bag, checking over the spirit stones to ensure there were no other issues. Once he confirmed there were no problems, Lu Changxing breathed a sigh of relief. He planned not to sell talismans this way for the next month or two. Otherwise, he might attract the attention of other interested parties. He wasn't just reading books for nothing. He knew that in the cultivation world, there were many unique and various techniques. Chapter 90, Treasure Bone Technique. Your maid has arrived. Even mystical beasts capable of sniffing out spirit stones, spiritual medicines, treasures, and the like exist, as well as secret techniques to do the same. Therefore, sometimes without any rhyme or reason, one might inexplicably become the target of someone else's interest. While the Nine Dragons market has good public order, one never knows if someone might take a risk, seeing someone with a low cultivation level but carrying money. After changing his appearance, Lu Changxing switched ins twice more before reverting to his true form and returning to the spiritual talisman shop. He then took a middle-grade magic artifact pen from the spiritual talisman shop at the cost price of 139 spirit stones. He also bought 2 stacks of supreme-grade talisman paper and 2 portions of supreme-grade spirit ink, one each of fine quality and high quality. He prepared them for drawing superior-grade talismans. To this, Zhang Shan did not say much. After all, it is perfectly normal for the shop's owner to get items at cost price. Lu Miaoge, seeing Lu Changsheng's purchase of a middle-grade magic artifact pen, didn't ask many questions. As a talisman master, buying a better quality pen is quite the norm, isn't it? She did mention to Lu Changxing that he didn't need supreme-grade talisman paper or spirit ink at the moment. Using supreme-grade materials to draw middle-grade talismans would be too wasteful. Lu Changxing responded that he just bought them to try them out and see what the difference was compared to high-level papers. In his heart, however, he couldn't help but think that he might need to buy his talisman paper and spirit ink elsewhere in the future. As night fell, Lu Changxing finished his work for the day with Lu Miaoge and returned to the Lu family's large courtyard in the eastern district. Lu Changxing had been wondering whether being seen together with Lu Miaoge every day might cause her admirers or secret admirers to take notice and start trouble for him. It turned out he was overthinking things. In the last half-month, although quite a few young men approached Lu Miaoge to strike up a conversation or even came to the shop to look for her, they all behaved with a certain level of decorum. Moreover, once they learned of his identity, they did not see him as a rival, they refrained from mocking and were in fact very polite. Upon returning to the courtyard, he encountered the second young lady. Faced with Lu Changxing, she gave a cold snort and looked at him with a chilly disdain. To this, Lu Changxing merely smiled wryly, finding the second young lady's behavior rather endearing. He thought to himself that one day, he would give her enough reasons to grumble. After a simple dinner, Lu Changxing returned to his room. On the way, he ran into Lu Miaocheng, who was staggering and rubbing his waist. The latter clapped him on the shoulder and said, "Changxing, you were right. We should visit those places less. We cultivators ought to focus on cultivation and tempering our characters." Lu Changxing, if he remembered correctly, Lu Miaocheng had said the same thing to him just 3 days ago. It had only been a few days. So much for being a saint after the deed, all that resolve flies out the window as soon as the trousers are pulled up. Shaking his head slightly, upon returning to his room, Lu Changxing took out the newly purchased magic artifact pen, supreme-grade talisman paper, and supreme-grade spirit ink and placed them on the table. He prepared to draw a few superior-grade talismans that could save his life. Lu Changxing took out a bottle of white jade 100 flowers wine from his storage bag and took a hearty swig. Then, he took a deep breath, calmed his mind, picked up the magic artifact pen, and began to draw the superior-grade talisman, the thunder-summoning talisman. Even with his second-rank talisman-making skill, his cultivation level required him to treat the drawing of such superior-grade talismans with due seriousness. The tip of the pen dipped lightly in the spirit ink, emitting a faint spiritual light. Then Lu Changxing began to draw the talismans with a serious expression. The process was neither quick nor slow, each stroke smooth and fluid, possessing an artistic beauty. If the fourth elder were here, seeing Lu Changsheng's talisman-making skill, she would be agape in awe and disbelief. Even she did not have the fluidity and ease that Lu Changsheng possessed when drawing the thunder-summoning talisman. After a while, Lu Changsheng finished the drawing with a flourish of his pen, and spiritual light surged from its tip, making the whole sheet of talisman paper seem to be enveloped in lightning at that moment. In an instant, the thunder light faded and vanished. A first-grade superior talisman, the thunder-summoning talisman, completed. Phew. At this moment, Lu Changsheng let out a long sigh of relief and sat down, a tired expression on his face. Indeed, with a middle-grade magic artifact brush and an advanced-level talisman paper and spiritual ink, superior talismans will no longer pose a problem for me, he said. The only problem is, creating one almost drains all my spiritual power. Lu Changsheng gazed at the thunder-summoning talisman on the table, muttering to himself, yet his eyes were filled with excitement and joy. If the wear and tear of the talisman brush are not included, the cost of one superior talisman, with just the advanced-level talisman paper and spiritual ink, is 6 spirit stones. Yet, a thunder talisman can sell for 40 to 50 spirit stones. That's a stable profit of 7 to 8 times the cost. Most importantly, having a bunch of superior talismans on hand also gave him a greater sense of personal safety. After storing the thunder-summoning talisman in his storage bag, Lu Changsheng went to sleep and rest. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed by. On this day, a young manservant arrived at the spiritual talisman shop. He announced that the maid Lu Changsheng had purchased from White Jade Tower had been delivered. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng wasn't busy with anything else, so he went directly with the manservant to the White Jade Tower. Young Master Han, sorry to have kept you waiting. Lu Changsheng arrived on the second floor and immediately saw Feng Jionyang, who had received him before, dressed as she had been the previous time. She wore a black phoenix bird gauze dress with high slits, revealing 2 long and slender legs in black silk, her feet in a pair of high heels with delicate black phoenix bird gold embroidery. She was allure personified. No matter, it's been just over 20 days, I'm not in a hurry, said Lu Changsheng, glancing at the voluptuous and slender legs under the sheer dress. At the root of the dress hem, one could see a hint of pale skin and lace patterns, barely visible. Before long, a woman in a red dress led a young woman in a yellow dress, about 18 or 19 years old, toward them. Lu Changsheng's gaze quickly fell on the girl in the yellow dress. The girl was 18 or 19 with fair skin, a graceful figure, and lush black hair casually tied up and draped behind her. She was dressed in a goose-yellow long gown with an open, dipping neckline, revealing a stretch of snowy white skin on an elongated neck. Though it was just a glimpse of spring, it was particularly eye-catching. But there wasn't even the slightest smile on her beautiful, delicate face, her brows slightly furrowed with sadness, and there was no sign of life in her spiritless eyes. Young Master Han, this is the maid you have purchased, Xiao Yuyao, Feng Jionyang said with a soft and seductive smile, then turned to Xiao Yuyao and commanded, Yuyao, greet young Master Han. Her voice was as tender and entrancing as before, but it carried an undeniable and unquestionable authority. Only then did the girl in yellow lower her eyes slightly and politely greeted Lu Changsheng, Yuyao greets young Master Han. When she saw Lu Changsheng, a trace of vitality appeared in her lifeless eyes. After all, with the downfall of her family and being sold to the White Jade Tower, she knew what lay ahead for her. She could either be bought to become a cauldron, harvested until death, or be bought as a tool for bearing children, continuously birthing offspring. Only a minority were bought to become maids serving others. Seeing the buyer was such a young and handsome man, she too relaxed a little, feeling moderately lucky that her fate wasn't as miserable as it could have been. After all, even if she were to become a cauldron or a childbearing tool, who wouldn't prefer someone good-looking and handsome? Young Master Han, are you satisfied? Feng Jionyang made a welcoming gesture toward Lu Changsheng and asked. According to the terms of the spiritual contract, once the maid was delivered, if the buyer found that the reality did not match the information provided, they could voice their objections. They could even choose to reject her. But in that case, depending on the situation, a certain deposit would have to be forfeited. She was even more aware than Lu Changxing of the cruelty faced by the lower ranks within the cultivation world. Every day, countless tales unfolded of bones buried in the wilderness, families destroyed and scattered. If one were to sympathize with every such case, it would be overwhelming. In her eyes, it was fortunate for this woman to become Lu Changsheng's maid. After all, in Jianghu Mountain, although Lu Changsheng's reputation was not very good due to taking wives and concubines and having too many children, he still had a very good reputation in dealing with his wives, concubines, and children. Night fell. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge got off work and headed back to the Lu family's large courtyard in the eastern district. As for Xiao Yuyao, the new maid, she followed half a step behind Lu Changsheng with her eyes demurely lowered. Li Shi and Wang Wu exchanged glances upon witnessing this scene. They could both see a touch of sorrow in each other's eyes. Although they aspired to dedicate themselves to Lu Changsheng, they understood. A man like Lu Changsheng was never short of women. The few in the Lu family's courtyard didn't make any remark about Lu Changsheng bringing home a woman. After all, it was just the purchase of a maid. Only the second daughter saw this and let out a louder snort than usual, her face showing even more disdain. Lu Changsheng smiled wryly, returned to his small courtyard and directly instructed Xiao Yuyao. Go and prepare a bath for me. Since he had bought her to be a maid, naturally she was to be put to work. Though he had a moral bottom line, he did not have an obsession with moral cleanliness. He didn't go so far as to preach equality and treat a purchased servant with the same regard as anyone else. A maid should naturally look and act as one. As if realizing something, Xiao Yuyao's eyes trembled, and she quietly acknowledged with a yes. Then, carrying a bath bucket and bringing hot water, her cheeks flushed as she began to undress Lu Changsheng. She also pursed her lips, undressing herself, and together with the swooshing sound of the water, entered the bath with Lu Changsheng, her delicate, soft hands washing over his body. As a cultivator clad in a magical robe, Lu Changsheng's body never really accrued any dirt, making bathing somewhat unnecessary. But taking a bath was a form of relaxation and indulgence. With the means, one should enjoy such pleasures. Otherwise, wasn't life just a relentless pursuit of immortality? After she had scrubbed Lu Changsheng's body thoroughly, the blush on Xiao Yuyao's cheeks deepened, and with shy arms loosely embracing Lu Changsheng's neck, she spoke in an embarrassed tone, "Young master," despite the stiffness in her movements and voice. It was clear that White Jade Tower had trained her well. She was very accommodating. Right then, Lu Changsheng could no longer suppress himself. After all, it had been nearly a month since he last indulged in the pleasures of the flesh. Suddenly, inside the bathtub, the water surged tumultuously, splashing everywhere, with vigorous agitation. The next day. Indeed, it said that solitude yields no life, and singularity brings no growth. The harmony of yin and yang is essential. Lu Changsheng emerged from his room feeling refreshed and invigorated. It's truly better to have someone by your pillow. Without cuddling the tender warmth of a beauty, even sleep seemed to lack something. He didn't take Xiao Yuyao with him to the spiritual talisman shop. As he stepped out of the courtyard, he ran into Lu Miaocheng. Changsheng. Lu Miaocheng, seeing Lu Changsheng, hurriedly approached him. His somewhat haggard face showed a hint of awkwardness as he smiled and said, "Changsheng, do you have any spare spirit stones on you? Could you lend me 20? Lu Changsheng had thought that the other was looking for him to perhaps discuss books or tea again. He hadn't expected a request for spirit stones. And to start with asking for as many as 20 spirit stones. Though he was often lavish with money, 20 spirit stones was not a small sum. Chapter 92, From now on, you are my half-brother from another father and mother. After all, when it comes to lending money, one must be prepared for the possibility that the other party won't repay it. Lu Miaocheng also managed a shop, but his monthly earnings were not much. Last time at Spring Abundance Building, there was a female cultivator I particularly liked, so I've spent all my spirit stones recently, which is why I've come to borrow some from you, he said. Changsheng, let me tell you, the women of Spring Abundance Building are not only stunning in appearance but also can offer you the ultimate pleasure, incomparable to ordinary maids and concubines. Lu Miaoqing continued, his handsome face breaking into a smile that seemed somewhat lecherous at that moment. Lu Changxing had also heard of this spring abundance building. He knew it was a brothel in the marketplace. All the workers there were celestial maidens skilled in the art of love. So the prices were also extremely high. A single experience could cost several spirit stones, or even dozens. Lu Miaoqing had probably been frequenting the place lately. It was normal for him to have spent all his spirit stones. After all, such places were truly gold sinks. No matter how many spirit stones you had, they wouldn't last if you went there every day. Cousin, I've almost spent all my spirit stones these days, and I've just bought a maid, so I don't have many left, Lu Changxing said with a look of difficulty, and then took out 20 spirit stones. He was, after all, a member of a prominent family. There were frequent interactions where they would see each other. These past days, he had received many greetings from him. Although it was always invitations to read or appreciate tea, there was a certain camaraderie, so it was difficult to outright refuse. If the other party really didn't repay, then he would consider the 20 spirit stones as lost to the water. Good brother, thank you. I will repay you once I have spirit stones, and then I'll take you to experience spring abundance building properly. Lu Miaoqing said, smiling as he took the spirit stones and then turned and left. Sigh, watching Lu Miaoqing's departing figure, Lu Changxing shook his head. This cousin, despite being a Qi refinement 5th layer cultivator, has come to borrow spirit stones from me because of his frequent visits to the brothel that have left him haggard. Places like that, better to avoid them if possible. With that money, wouldn't it be better to take a few concubines or buy some maids? Doesn't that sound nice? No, that's not right, am I, Lu, someone who lusts for pleasure and brief romantic encounters? Even if I take wives and concubines, it's for the great Tao, for long life and clear sight. Lu Changxing mused to himself, his eyes bright with determination, and his posture a bit more erect. Shortly afterward, he strode upright, accompanied by Lu Miaoge, to work. Arriving at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing proceeded as usual to draft a few middle-grade talismans. He had come to 9 Dragons Market to manage the shop, but the monthly tasks given by the Lu family for drawing talismans were still ongoing and needed to be completed on time. However, Lu Changxing didn't want to give up on this task himself either. After all, not only did he earn spirit stones from it, but he also got to keep all the extra materials for himself, a lucrative deal. At noon, Lu Changxing invited Lu Miaoge to eat at Jade Meal Hall. Though slightly expensive, the food really was delicious. Treating oneself to a meal there every so often was not bad. Yet, during the several trips Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing had made to Jade Meal Hall, Lu Miaoge had not let Lu Changxing pay, suggesting they take turns covering the bill. Lu Changxing didn't mind and certainly wasn't about to fight to pay. Qingzhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop. Inside the talisman room. Could there be defects even in premium talisman paper? After finishing a superior grade talisman, the dungeon talisman, Lu Changxing looked surprised. He had almost failed in creating this talisman just now. The reason was simple. There was a tiny flaw on the talisman paper that almost caused his talisman making to fail. Subsequently, Lu Changxing checked the remaining dozen or so sheets of paper, all of which were fine. It was only the one he had just worked on that had a small defect. Seeing this, Lu Changxing didn't pay it much mind or take it to heart. After all, finding a minor defect in a stack of talismans could still be considered acceptable. After a short rest, Lu Changxing thought that it had been almost a month since he came to 9 Dragons Market. In a few days, after inspecting the monthly inventory, he would be able to return home. I should buy some gifts to take back since I'm returning soon. He then gave Lu Miaoge a heads up and went out to buy gifts for his wives and children. That night, Lu Changxing's eyes were slightly narrowed as he lay back in the bath. After a while, Xiao Yuyo's head emerged from the water, covering her mouth, coughing softly. Lu Changxing gestured with his hand, using the object manipulating technique to pour a cup of tea from the teapot on the side table, which landed in his hand. He handed it to the maid in front of him, speaking softly, "There's really no need, to swallow it. "It's fine, young master." Xiao Yuyao took a sip of tea and spoke softly, her eyes downcast. Her clear eyes no longer had the numbness they had before. Through their interactions over these days, she had come to understand that her young master was a decent person. Especially yesterday. The woman who had always looked at her young master with disdain had given her a couple of pointers. She said that apart from being desirous of women, her master was decent regarding females. As long as she behaved well, apart from bearing children, she would not be mistreated. Spiritual Talisman Shop. Boss, here is this month's stock. Including 496 basic talismans, 851 lower-grade talismans, 388 middle-grade talismans, ordinary talisman paper. Zhang Shan handed over a list and 5 storage bags to Lu Miaoge to inspect. Lu Miaoge nodded and then went to the 3rd floor, calling Lu Changxing over to help check the inventory. Of course, they couldn't possibly check all these goods. Otherwise, they wouldn't know when they would finish. Chapter 93. From now on, you are my half-brother from another father and mother. Moreover, the loose cultivators who collaborated with the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop were mostly fixed, so it was enough to inspect a portion of the goods each provided. Lu Miaoge explained the inspection standards for the goods to Lu Changxing. For instance, with talisman inspections, first and foremost, the quality of the talisman paper couldn't be too poor. Then, the sketched talisman lines should flow smoothly at first glance, without any bumps or scrapes, and finally, the spiritual power within should circulate unimpeded. Talismans could be used as soon as they were made. However, there would be a 10 to 20% difference in effectiveness due to the quality of materials, the lines, and the spiritual power. Previously, when Lu Changxing brought his talismans to the spiritual talisman shop to sell, it was because their quality was very good, which is why the sales went so smoothly. As for the talisman paper and spiritual ink, there should not be a single flaw in quality. Having heard this, Lu Changxing finally understood the shop standards for goods. He couldn't help thinking about the talismans he had bought from the shop a few days earlier, only to find that one of them was flawed. Was this just his bad luck, a coincidence, or was it a lapse in quality control? Immediately, Lu Changxing started inspecting more seriously. After all, he was going to be responsible for managing the spiritual talisman shop in a short while. If there were quality issues with the goods under his watch, or if their reputation suffered, that would be problematic. Sister Miaoge, according to the standards, would you say the spiritual power inside this talisman is flowing smoothly? Lu Changxing, holding a middle-grade talisman in his hands, gently felt the spiritual power coursing within and voiced his inquiry. This one is just on the passing mark, any worse and we wouldn't accept it. Lu Miaoge said aloud. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded and began to work. The work took the two of them a full 2 days to complete. Changxing, you've worked hard. If it weren't for your help, it would have taken me 2 or 3 more days to finish the spot checks. Lu Miaoge said with a light smile on her face. It's what I should do. Lu Changxing smiled and then took out a list and said, these people's goods have issues, so well return them. We won't cooperate with them in the future, right? During the 2 days of inspections, they indeed found some talismans, talisman papers, and spiritual inks that failed to meet quality standards. That's right, the main thing about running a shop in the marketplace is reputation. If there are too many issues with the goods, a bad reputation will essentially ruin the shop. That's why strict quality control in this area is a must. Lu Miaoge nodded her head with a serious tone. Okay, I'll make sure to control this aspect well. Lu Changxing naturally understood this principle too. They say that becoming an official or getting rich means making enemies in the same trade, and rivals within the same industry harbor nothing but naked hatred for each other. With so many spiritual talisman shops in the 9 Dragons market, competition is fierce. The Lu family's spiritual talisman shop had not reached its current state easily. If any issues arose, other talisman shops would definitely pile on, and the business could plummet drastically. Uncle Zhang, I've finished inspecting the goods. These few suppliers have a low rate of quality goods, return all their items and cease future cooperation. Lu Changxing, holding a list, said to Zhang Shan. Yes, second master. Shopkeeper Zhang Shan nodded and took the list to look. Upon seeing a name on it, he said, Second master, this loose cultivator named Jia Huiran has cooperated with our shop for several years, and there has never been an issue during that time. Could there be some problem this time? Shall I ask him about it when I have a chance? Zhang Shan suggested. Has he been cooperating for several years without ever having an issue? Lu Changxing raised his eyebrows upon hearing this. Yes, ever since the first master took over the shop, Jia Huiran has been working with us without any problems, and the quality has always been good. Zhang Shan said evenly. In that case, send his goods back to him and have him check everything himself. I'll take another look later. If there's no problem, then let's overlook it this time. Lu Changxing eyed Zhang Shan, his gaze narrowing slightly as he spoke after a moment's thought. All right, second master. Zhang Shan immediately responded with a nod. After that, Lu Changxing also discussed the matter with Lu Miaoge. Lu Miaoge felt the issue was not too serious and that giving them a chance was fine. It was up to Lu Changxing to handle it. She then mentioned that she would be returning to Jianghu mountain in 2 days. After returning to the Lu family's courtyard, Lu Changxing also told Xiao Yuyao he would have to go back in a few days. Xiao Yuyao was aware that this son of hers had a pile of wives, concubines, and children at the Lu family and obediently responded. Meanwhile, in a small courtyard in the western district. Brother Zhang, why were all the materials from this batch sent back for rework? A burly man asked Zhang Shan. Sent back for rework, and you're still asking me? This month, the shop got a new owner, so for the next few months, the shop will be monitored much more closely. Keep an eye on the quality yourself, and don't give me any of those shoddy goods passed off as first-rate again. If I hadn't spoken up this time, they would have directly terminated the partnership. Zhang Shan replied irritably. Terminate it then. When the time comes, well, just change the name and continue the partnership as usual, won't we? The burly man said with an indifferent expression. Changing the name would only bring more trouble if the inspections find issues again. Moreover, I haven't quite figured out this new owner's temperament yet. Let old Zhou and old Yang keep an eye out as well. Zhang Shan continued, his face stern and beyond questioning. All right, brother Zhang, I got it. Seeing the situation, the burly man nodded earnestly. 2 days later, early in the morning, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle from Nine Dragons Market back to Jianghu Mountain. Similar to their journey there, it took 2 days for the pair to safely return to the Lu family. Husband, the husband has returned. Daddy, daddy. As soon as Lu Changxing entered, several wives, concubines, and playing children caught sight of his return and ran over to him with boundless joy, surrounding him in hugs. This is what home feels like. Seeing this, Lu Changxing couldn't help but smile, patting his wives and embracing his children. Afterward, the other wives and concubines also came to meet Lu Changxing. In the process, Lu Changxing noticed a woman he hadn't seen before. This woman, appearing to be 17 or 18 years old, had a demeanor of refined grace and seemed somewhat shy. Later on, through Lu Miao's explanation, he learned that this woman was named Guan Xian. She was sent over by Hong Yi not long ago when he came to Jianghu Mountain to trade talismans and possessed an 8th-grade spiritual root. At this point, Lu Miaoyan pouted slightly and coquettishly said that Lu Changxing having them was not enough, and insisted that he had others find women for him outside. Hearing this, Lu Changxing immediately envisioned the scene. Lu Miaoyan, pregnant, had gone to trade talismans on his behalf, and as a result, Hong Yi sent him a young girl. Under such circumstances, it was normal for Lu Miaoyan, as his principal wife, to show a bit of temper. He immediately soothed her, assuring her that he truly had no idea, and was unaware of this development. After Jiu'er and Shu'er, he had told Hong Yi not to engage in such activities anymore. He stated that if he had been there, he would have definitely declined. He then showered her with sweet talk, praising Lu Miao's conduct as a leading wife and declaring her to be an exemplary helpmate to him. Of course, he said what he said, but in his heart, it was Hong Yi, what a good brother. In secular society, finding someone with a spiritual root was not easy. Let alone a young woman in her prime years. Now that Hong Yi had found one and sent her to him, he was truly like a brother, though not by blood. Lu Changxing also thought that he could now start selling some middle-grade talismans to Hong Yi. On the one hand, it would increase his income. On the other hand, it was a way to give Hong Yi some benefits. After all, Hong Yi had treated him so well, like a brother, so he could not fail to reciprocate. Later, Lu Changxing chatted with Guan Xian, inquiring about her family situation and whether she came of her own will, ensuring she hadn't been coerced in any way. She conveyed that her family was an ordinary family of 5 and she had willingly sold herself to the Rui Marquis mansion to serve the celestial master. Hearing this, Lu Changxing was relieved. A gentleman adores the fair sex but always acts in an upright manner. His bottom line, Lu's own, was not to coerce anyone and to avoid any possible trouble. Chapter 94. Alright, I was wrong, okay? _1 There's a saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. That night, after successive intense battles, there was much tossing and turning. The passion of the process, sweet and lingering, was not for others to know. Due to this trip home, I'd only be staying for 3 days. So, during these 3 days, Lu Changxing didn't do much cultivation or talisman making, instead spending all his time with his wives and children. In the meantime, Lu Changxing also mentioned to Lu Miaoyun that had bought a maid while at 9 Dragons Market. There was nothing to hide about such matters, his wives would eventually find out once Xiao Yuyao became pregnant. Lu Miaoyun, knowing her husband's temperament all too well, didn't mind too much and didn't make much of it. After all, when she agreed to marry Lu Changxing, she was already mentally prepared for this aspect. She simply showed concern, asking with full attention how Lu Changxing's life had been at 9 Dragons Market, and whether he had been well. Warmed by his little wife's concern, Lu Changxing expressed that aside from missing his family, everything else was fine. Later, Lu Changxing also went to visit the 4th elder and received guidance on talisman making. During this, the 4th elder also showed concern and inquired about his adaptation to life in 9 Dragons Market. Lu Changxing naturally said there were no problems. Then on the way back, he stopped by the 5th elder's place and bought a batch of spiritual wine. Thus, the 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoga were ready to start their journey back to 9 Dragons Market. His 25th child was about to be born in the coming days. But Lu Changxing didn't wait at home for the birth of the child before leaving. This situation would arise again in the future, and he couldn't always be by their side. Everything has its first time. On the journey back to 9 Dragons Market, Lu Changxing's iron feather eagle was joined by a maid named Xiaoqing. Taking Xiaoqing to 9 Dragons Market was partly because Lu Miaoyun had mentioned it earlier, asking him to bring Xiaoqing over. Moreover, having babies couldn't be halted, and Xiao Yuyao alone was not enough by his side. If not for the inconvenience of the iron feather eagle carrying too many people, Lu Changxing would have also liked to bring Guan Xian to 9 Dragons Market. However, he wasn't in a hurry, as it would be the same if he brought her over the next month. Because he brought Xiaoqing, the journey took half a day longer than before. Also, as Xiaoqing wasn't protected by a magical robe, she consumed 3 of Lu Changxing's wind-avoiding talismans while traveling through the clouds on the iron feather eagle. If Lu Changxing didn't have an abundance of talismans and didn't mind the cost, just those 3 talismans would have cost 6 spirit stones, which was a significant expense. Upon entering the city, Lu Changxing also got a long-term identity card for Xiaoqing. He couldn't help thinking to himself that bringing people to live in the marketplace also entailed quite an expense. When he brought Xiaoqing back to the Lu family compound, Lu Changxing encountered Lu Miaohuan. The latter huffed with disdain and scorn written all over her face. This made Lu Changxing somewhat displeased. Now and then your occasional snorts are fine. But do you have to huff with disdain every time we meet? Despite being the dream of untold numbers of fairies in the future, I'm still so unwelcome. Moreover, at the initial arranged meeting, although I was at fault, it was your excessive demands of not allowing a husband to take other wives or concubines that led me to refuse. If not for that, with your face, your figure, your legs, and your 6th grade spiritual root, if you were even half as good-natured as Lu Miaoyun, I feel I might have agreed. Second miss, are you sure there's nothing wrong with your health? Every time I see you, you're frowning and huffing. If something really is wrong, you should get it checked out soon, or it might get worse. Lu Changxing glanced at the second miss and said with a touch of annoyance. After speaking, he took Xiaoqing back to his own courtyard. Lu Miaohuan didn't expect that after so long, not only did Lu Changxing not apologize to her, but he also made sarcastic remarks, which left her feeling upset. She said coldly, I'm in perfectly good health. I just dislike you. Is that a problem? Her voice was still clear and beautiful. Hearing the second miss speak so frankly and righteously, Lu Changxing was momentarily at a loss for words. Looking at Lu Miaohuan's icy, indignant, yet still exquisite face, Lu Changxing couldn't help but respond, then don't look. I will look if I want to. Do you think you can stop me? Lu Miaohuan's face puffed up with anger, her delicate chin lifted, a picture of cold and noble beauty. I can't stop you. If you insist on making yourself miserable, then by all means, continue feeling upset. Lu Changxing said, shaking his head as he walked away. Lu Changxing, you stop right there. Seeing Lu Changxing's stance, the expression on Lu Miaohuan's delicate face inflated like a pufferfish. You're the one who has an issue with me, why are you telling me to stop? Do you want to make yourself suffer? Lu Changxing paused mid-step and looked sideways. What kind of attitude is that? Lu Miaohuan's face turned frosty as her chest heaved with indignation. Alright, okay, I was wrong, I'm wrong, happy now. Lu Changxing's face was full of insincerity, uttering words that could infuriate anyone. What do you mean by I was wrong, happy now? It was clearly your fault. Is this how you apologize? Lu Miaohuan became increasingly agitated upon seeing Lu Changxing's demeanor. An inexplicable fury surged within her, making her feel extremely annoyed. As Lu Changxing observed her posture and temperament, he was reminded that the second miss was spoiled with a temperamental nature. Concepts such as interpersonal relations and social graces were non-existent in her. Not wanting to argue or fight with her, he turned around, bowed slightly, and earnestly said, All right, it's my fault. I sincerely apologize to Second Mississippi. Please forgive me. Seeing Lu Changxing's earnest apology, Lu Miaohuan's puffed cheeks deflated, her lips pursed, and with a huff, she walked away with high heels clicking, the epitome of a cold and noble beauty. Chapter 95, Alright, I was wrong, okay? Lu Changxing witnessed this scene and couldn't help being speechless. How is the second miss behaving like a child? The first miss, although appearing otherworldly, actually has a high EQ and handles interpersonal relationships very well. Lu Changxing couldn't help shaking his head. He also felt there was no need to take the second miss so seriously, and when it was time to apologize, he might as well just do it. It would be like humoring a little girl, best to just humor her and be done with it. Son-in-law, it seems the second miss has taken a fancy to you, said the maid Xiaoqing giggling as she watched the two of them bicker. Nonsense, Lu Changxing flicked Xiaoqing's pale forehead with his finger. It's true, the little maid said, pouting her lips while covering her forehead that had been flicked, knowing her master's temper. Lu Changxing chuckled, feeling that the second miss behavior was indeed like that of a child trying to catch someone's attention in a certain way. He didn't pay it much mind. After all, if the second miss really took an interest in him, wanting to marry him, he would find it hard to accommodate, not having the energy to pamper her. Having settled Xiaoqing in the courtyard, Lu Changxing suddenly thought of a problem. If the number of his wives, concubines, and maids increased, he might need to consider renting a house in the marketplace. After all, this small courtyard only had about 100 square meters, which was indeed quite small. And if there were many wives and maids, it would be inconvenient to live together in such a large courtyard. But for now, with just 3 people, Lu Changxing wasn't in a hurry. He planned to rent a house in Nine Dragons Market once there were a few more people. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Lu Changxing spent his days cultivating, making talismans, and going to work. Sometimes he'd go shopping with the little maid and would occasionally invite the first miss to eat out. Life was quite leisurely and comfortable. One day, Lu Miaoqing came to find Lu Changxing again. Lu Changxing thought he was coming to repay the money. But unexpectedly, the man was here to ask for a loan again. There's a saying, borrowing and returning makes for further borrowing not hard, but don't lend to the desperately poor. For someone like Lu Miaoqing, who hadn't repaid the first loan and was likely borrowing money to indulge in pleasures again, Lu Changxing naturally would not lend any more. He stated straightforwardly that he had no money. Not only did he claim to be out of money, but he also directly pleaded poverty, asking Lu Miaoqing when he would return the spirit stones. Under Lu Changsheng's acting, Lu Miaoqing could only leave disappointed. After all, to ordinary people, Lu Changsheng's income would indeed not amount to much if he had to support so many wives and children. He came to borrow money from you? Better to keep your distance from that sort of person. But you two do seem to have something in common. No wonder he came to you for a loan. Lu Miaohuan, just returning from work, passed by and saw Lu Miaoqing leaving. Guessing what had happened, she sneered. How are we of the same ilk? I, at the very least, have 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored consorts, and 3 maids. Do I need to go to such places? Lu Changxing, seeing Lu Miaohuan's expression, snorted in disdain and walked away. Lu Miaohuan, hearing Lu Changsheng's words and watching his retreating figure, didn't know why, but felt her anger rising incessantly, very annoyed. That night, after, Xiao Yuyao and Xiao Qing leaned languidly in Lu Changsheng's embrace. My lord, I think I might be pregnant, Xiao Yuyao said in a soft voice. Pregnant? Lu Changsheng's spirits lifted upon hearing this. There's a saying that a lone yin does not produce life, nor does a lone yang endure, and these days he had been harmonizing yin and yang with Xiao Yuyao nightly. Now after such a long time, her being pregnant was natural. Instantly, he pressed his head to Xiao Yuyao's belly. He could faintly feel a weak life force gestating. Good, good, good. Lu Changxing repeatedly cheered, his face full of delight, and asked, when did you realize it? Xiao Yuyao was also a cultivator, with a qi refinement level of the 2nd level, so it was natural for her to be aware of her own pregnancy. It was just a couple of days ago, but at that time I wasn't sure yet. I only confirmed it today, Xiao Yuyao said gently. She knew that her lord particularly adored children. Good, from now on take good care of yourself and pay attention to your health. If you need anything for eating or drinking, just let me know, Lu Changxing said. Now that she was carrying a child, becoming the mother of his child, her status in his heart would naturally rise. Xiao Qing, seeing this, her watery eyes filled with coquettishness, looked at Lu Changxing and said in a tender voice, My lord, I want to bear your child too. Good, 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 bear one. Lu Changxing drew Xiao Qing close and agreed. In 2 months' time, Lu Miao's child was due. For Xiao Qing to be pregnant now would be about the right time. He then rolled over and set about striving for the great Tao of immortality. The next day, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge went to work. Thinking of Xiao Yuyao's pregnancy, he now only had Xiao Qing left by his side. Previously, he had been concerned about Lu Miao's pregnancy, which is why he hadn't allowed Xiao Qing to get pregnant. Now, without such concerns, he reckoned that under daily yin and yang harmonization, it shouldn't take long for Xiao Qing to conceive as well. Should we, perhaps, buy some more maids from White Jade Tower? Now that Yuyao is pregnant, she needs someone to take care of her. If Xiao Qing gets pregnant, she'll need someone too, Lu Changxing mused inwardly. He hadn't really thought that the maids he bought must possess a spiritual root. Indeed, his intent was to practice eugenics, but it was also to do so as much as practicable under the circumstances. Currently, he clearly did not have the conditions for that. However, the first order of business is to earn some spirit stones. Lu Changxing shook his head slightly. The spirit stones he had previously earned, spent on magic artifacts, talisman brushes, talisman paper, and spirit ink, together with the expenses incurred in recent times, had almost depleted his reserves. Chapter 96. Alright, I was wrong, okay? So, even if he were to buy ordinary maids without a spiritual root, the money he had would hardly suffice. Because if one were to buy maids, naturally one could not just buy one or two. If buying, one should buy many at once. And with the increase of maids, the matter of renting a house also had to be put on the agenda. Alas, wealth and companions are needed in the practice of the law. Indeed, no matter where you are, you need to have money. If it wasn't for my talisman-making skills, these years, having stored so many talismans on me, the very thought of cultivation would be extremely difficult. Lu Changxing shook his head and sighed, deeply sensing the difficulty of cultivation. If it was already like this for himself, how much harder it must be for other ordinary cultivators, he thought. After giving Lu Miaoge a quick heads up, Lu Changxing left the house and, after disguising himself, went around to several spiritual talisman shops and sold almost 200 talismans. This time selling talismans, he was even more cautious and did not go to the shops where he had sold talismans before, to avoid being noticed by someone with ulterior motives. Sigh, this is ultimately not a long-term solution. A few more times, I would have visited every spiritual talisman shop in the Nine Dragons Market, and I might end up drawing the attention of someone with ulterior motives. In the inn, Lu Changxing checked himself with a purification talisman, making sure he wasn't being watched, and let out a sigh of relief. The Lu family's spiritual talisman shop purchases talismans outside every month. In a few more months, the young lady won't be at the spiritual talisman shop every day, and by then, I will be fully in charge of the shop. At that time, depending on the situation, I can sell the talismans I have through the channel of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, without having to run around like this, worried about being watched. Lu Changsheng's eyes flickered. He had thought before about whether he could sell his own spirit talismans through the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. And this month's observations made him feel it was increasingly feasible. All he needed to do was to forge a supplier, as long as the goods provided were fine. Once the shop was under his full responsibility, such a thing would be easier than ever. That night, Lu Changxing also asked Xiaoqing to find out about the housing prices and rental situation in the Nine Dragons Market and planned to rent a 400 to 500 square meter house. For the location of the house, he told Xiaoqing to look in the eastern and northern districts and not to go to the western district. The western district was the gathering place for loose cultivators. Not only was it far, but it was also a mixture of good and bad, and there might be unexpected dangers. So it wouldn't matter even if it cost a bit more money. Even though the northern district was a commercial and entertainment district, belonging to the bustling city, there were still many houses for rent. It's just that the cost-effectiveness wasn't very high. Considering the northern district was mainly to be as close as possible to the spiritual talisman shop for convenience. This would not only save him the daily commute time but also make explanations to the Lu family simpler. 2 days later, Xiaoqing showed Lu Changxing several houses to pick from. Looking at the conditions and prices of these houses, Lu Changxing also gained an understanding of the housing prices in the Nine Dragons Market. In the eastern district, a house of 400 to 500 square meters, depending on different lease terms, location, and environment, the price would be roughly between 60 and 100 spirit stones. The houses in the northern district, however, were much cheaper. The rent for a year was around 30 to 80 spirit stones. After looking at the houses Xiaoqing had picked out, Lu Changxing immediately made a decision. He chose a house in the northern district, not far from the spiritual talisman shop. The walk was almost 15 minutes. The house was about 400 square meters, and the minimum lease term was 5 years. The annual rent was 50 spirit stones, which could be paid yearly, and 1 year's rent would be required as a deposit. After deciding to rent the house, Lu Changxing mentioned the matter to Lu Miaoge that same night and also informed the second elder. After all, it wouldn't seem right to just rent a house and move out without saying a word when he was living comfortably in the area. And he had a ready-made reason. He was planning to have some of his wives and concubines come to stay in the marketplace for a while, which would be somewhat cramped at his current place and not very convenient. Moreover, he didn't want to walk back and forth every day, so he decided to rent a house near the spiritual talisman shop, which would make things much more convenient on a daily basis. When the second elder heard this, he initially suggested giving Lu Changxing a larger courtyard. But upon Lu Changxing's insistence, he didn't say much else. He only asked briefly whether Lu Changxing had rented yet and if he had found a suitable house, offering to have someone help take a look. Lu Changxing stated that he hadn't rented yet but had seen some and had a few in mind, and he showed his choices to the second elder. After looking them over, the latter saw no issues, but merely advised Lu Changxing to come and visit more often. The very next day, Lu Changxing went to the housing store management center established by Qingyun sect, paid 100 spirit stones, and signed a rental spiritual contract. During the lease period, he had the right to enter and reside in the marketplace without the need to pay the city entrance fee or process an identity card. Moreover, according to the size of the house, he also obtained 3 additional free residency spots. Having such a large house but only 3 free residency spots made Lu Changxing shake his head in disdain at their stinginess. What he found even more ridiculous was that the long-term identity cards that he had processed for himself and Xiao Qing were non-refundable, and he couldn't get any spirit stones back. After completing the house rental, Lu Changxing once again visited the White Jade Tower to purchase maids. What surprised him was that even the ordinary maids at White Jade Tower were so expensive. Even those without a spiritual root cost several spirit stones each, and the more expensive ones could cost dozens or even hundreds. With Feng Jianyang's explanation, he understood why even ordinary maids were so costly. One reason was the brand reputation of White Jade Tower. It guaranteed absolute assurance in the maid's appearance, figure, and loyalty. Additionally, these maids were trained and educated by White Jade Tower, not only proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, and the pleasures of the boudoir. They were also skilled in martial arts, and even the cultivation techniques they practiced could enhance and solidify one's foundation. For maids without a spiritual root, there were more options available. Essentially, as long as one had the money, White Jade Tower could provide whatever looks, figure, and personality one desired. In the selection, Lu Changxing also saw exotic female figures like Jiu'er and Shu'er, as well as maidens of the demon race. However, most of these demon race women partially possessed demon bloodlines, which were activated by White Jade Tower through certain methods, giving rise to demonic features. Such maids were only suitable as cherished concubines and generally lacked the ability to bear children, which Lu Changxing found regrettable. In the end, Lu Changxing spent 116 spirit stones to purchase 9 maids with unique features. 2 of them were already in the White Jade Tower, while the rest would be sent over later. Immediately, Lu Changxing settled the 2 maids in his newly rented house, and that very day he packed light, moving in with Xiao Yuyao and Xiao Qing. Chapter 97, Lu Changxing, a full-time artisan. _1 After moving, Lu Changxing cast a spell to do a simple sweep of the house and the yard. This house only has a basic soundproofing formation. It seems he'll need to buy a few small formations later. Lu Changxing observed the situation in the yard and thought to himself. Even though 9 Dragons Market had good public order, it still couldn't compare to living in Jianghu Valley's Lu family compound in the Eastern District. He still needed to be cautious and have some security measures. Otherwise, what would happen if he was not at home and his wives encountered danger while at home? Moreover, these small formations could be taken along and reused after purchasing when moving houses in the future. The next day, before going to work, Lu Changxing gave Xiao Qing 20 spirit stones. He asked her to buy some spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual materials to store at home. Now that he had Xiao Qing, a spirit cooking chef, he could enjoy better quality food. He also asked Xiao Qing to prepare lunch for 2 and deliver it to the spiritual talisman shop around noon. On his way to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing saw an array shop and went in to inquire about the prices of small formations, formation implements, and array plates. As for the formation implements, there are formation flags, array plates, and formation eyes as part of the set, and the specific cost depends on the area you want to cover, the shopkeeper of the formation shop began to introduce. Subsequently, Lu Changxing asked how much the formation implements would cost for a yard of around 400 or 500 square meters. There are many types of formations. For this size, the most common first-grade lower-quality formation, the minor misleading array costs 180 spirit stones. As for some stronger formations, it's not enough to just have the formation implements, you also need an array master to set it up and inscribe the array patterns. The shopkeeper, recognizing Lu Changxing, spoke more, sharing knowledge about formations with him. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing involuntarily clicked his tongue in wonder. Just to cover 400 square meters with a first-grade ordinary lower-quality formation implement would cost 180 spirit stones. The price for a complete set of first-grade middle-quality formation implements was around 400 or 500 spirit stones. As for a complete set of first-grade high-quality formation implements, the price was basically 1,000 or more spirit stones. And for complex formations, the cost was even higher because it included the fee for the array master's services. Truly, compared to array masters, alchemists, and artifact refiners, talisman masters are still a bit lacking. I also wonder if I will be able to draw formation skills in the future. If I could become an array master, then once I am settled down, I won't have to worry about someone breaking into my home. After chatting with the shopkeeper for a while, Lu Changxing shook his head and left. He didn't have the money now, and even the first-grade lower-quality formation implements were beyond his reach. Moreover, in his opinion, the first-grade lower-quality formation implements were actually somewhat mediocre in effect. At noon, Xiao Qing came to deliver food, carrying a lunch box. When Lu Miaoge found out there was also a portion for her, a smile appeared on her face. Lu Changxing had Xiao Qing prepare 2 portions, naturally including one for the young miss. After spending some time together, Lu Changxing knew that Miaoge also had a bit of a foodie trait and liked to eat often. Unfortunately, he himself had no culinary skills. He couldn't rely on cooking some dishes to conquer her stomach and then her heart with a roasted chicken. Unless one day he won culinary skills in a draw. After finishing the meal, Lu Miaoge also offered to give spirit stones to Lu Changxing as food expenses. Lu Changxing naturally refused to accept this. But unable to persuade Lu Miaoge otherwise, he eventually agreed to accept 12 spirit stones as a token per month. Night fell. When Lu Changxing got off work and returned home that day, Xiao Qing told him that in the afternoon a neighboring household had come to visit. They had also brought 3 talismans, saying that they were now neighbors and hoped to look out for each other more in the future. Hearing this, Lu Changxing was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected the neighbor to be so enthusiastic. He took the talismans from Xiao Qing's hand to have a look, and all 3 were of lower-grade quality. The neighbor gave talismans as a gift. Could it be that this neighbor is a talisman master? Lu Changxing thought to himself. Thinking that close neighbors are better than distant relatives and that one relies on friends when away from home, he would also be living here for quite some time. Since the neighbor took the initiative to visit, they seemed to be approachable, and it would be good to get acquainted. Moreover, maintaining a good relationship with the surrounding neighbors wouldn't be a bad thing. At the very least, he would know what kind of people his neighbors were. Without further ado, Lu Changxing also prepared a basket of fruit and took out 2 gift boxes containing several talismans to return the visit. Knock, knock, knock. Lu Changxing went to knock on the door of the small courtyard to the right. Soon, the door creaked open. "Who are you looking for, uncle?" The door was opened by a little girl around 11 or 12 years old with chubby cheeks, 2 buns tied with ribbons on her head, and wearing a pale blue ruchuan. The little girl was incredibly cute, with long eyelashes fluttering and her clear, distinct eyes looking up at Lu Changxing as she asked in a crisp voice. "I'm the neighbor who just moved in next door. I've come to visit. Is your family elder at home?" Lu Changxing asked with a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. The neighbor from next door, Upon hearing this, the little girl tilted her head and then called into the house with a bright voice, "Dad, it's the uncle who moved in next door." Then, a man in his 30s with a friendly face and a somewhat plump figure walked out from inside. "I've just moved in next door, and having heard that a friend came to visit earlier today, I too wanted to come over and get acquainted," Lu Changxing said politely as he handed over the basket of fruit. "Oh, it's you, Lu Daoist. Gao He. Please, come in, the middle-aged man said with a warm smile, gesturing invitingly in a way that exuded an aura of affability and prosperity. This courtyard was subdivided, covering only about 100 square meters and was not as large as Lu Changsheng's own yard. Chapter 98, Lu Changsheng, a full-time artisan. However, Lu Changsheng did glance over and saw that the household consisted only of Gao He and his daughter, as well as 2 servants, which seemed enough for such a large residence. While chatting, Lu Changsheng learned that the other party was a middle-grade talisman master who sat in residence at a spiritual talisman shop. Once Gao He learned that Lu Changsheng was the owner of the Jianghu Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, he became noticeably more enthusiastic. He expressed that they could have business dealings in the future. Subsequently, the two also exchanged insights on the art of talisman making. Through the conversation, Lu Changsheng roughly concluded that Gao He was at the intermediate level among middle-grade talisman masters, still some distance away from becoming a superior one. After leaving Gao He's home, Lu Changsheng also took the opportunity to visit the residence across the street. The person who opened the door was an elderly man, a senior servant of the household. Upon hearing Lu Changsheng's intention, he indicated that his master was not in and would only return after the hour of Su each day. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng apologized for the disturbance and said he would visit again another time. Then, he knocked on the door on the left to pay a visit there. "Who might you be?" The door was opened by a softly featured lady in her 30s, plump yet graceful in figure. Her skin was as white as snow, her eyebrows like emerald feathers, her nose like a distant mountain, and her lips were as rosy as blossoms, with her jet-black hair coiled up into a bun. She was draped in a light blue dress, with a slim waist tightly cinched by a belt, revealing a proud and curvaceous body. A gentle smile graced her lips, emanating a mature charm unique to a beautiful matron. "My name is Lu Changsheng, I've just moved in next door, so I've taken the liberty to come and introduce myself." Lu Changsheng, with a genial face and a smile, bowed slightly with his hands clasped and presented a gift box containing talismans. Inside were 3 low-grade talismans and 1 middle-grade talisman. After all, a small gift for a new acquaintance need not be too valuable. "So, it's Daoist Lu. Please, come in." Upon hearing this, the matron invited Lu Changsheng into the courtyard, served tea and water, and called out her husband to greet him. Her husband was a man in his 40s, tall and brawny. This man was entirely different from the genial Gao He, being somewhat taciturn. In his presence, Lu Changsheng even sensed a somewhat fierce aura, feeling that this person was not easy to approach. After a brief conversation, Lu Changsheng took his leave, mentioning he would be available for future talisman purchases. The man introduced himself as Zhao, who made his living by hunting demon beasts. He told Lu Changsheng that if he ever wished to buy demon beast meat, he could come to him. After paying his visits to the 3 neighboring families to the left and right, Lu Changsheng returned to his own residence. After a bath, he called upon Shao Qing and 2 maids, determined to strive for immortality. The next day, just as Lu Changsheng was preparing to leave, he heard a knock at the door. Upon opening, he saw a man with a tall stature and a refined appearance of middle age. It was his neighbor from across the way, who, having heard of Lu Changsheng's visit yesterday and noticing some activity this morning, took the opportunity to return the visit while at home. The neighbor knew him and was aware that he was the new owner of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Through his self-introduction, Lu Changsheng realized that this was the owner of the Jade Meal Hall, whom he had noted several times before. Probably a born businessman, the owner of the Jade Meal Hall was also very amicable. He suggested they should interact more in the future, offering discounts whenever Lu Changsheng dined at the Jade Meal Hall. Lu Changxing, too, was the type of person who responded amiably when others spoke kindly to him. After exchanging pleasantries with the man, he finally set off. He thought to himself that among the three neighboring families, aside from the somewhat fierce family on the left, the others seemed rather nice. Time flew, and before he knew it, the end of the month was almost upon him. Zhang Shan brought the inventory and list of goods purchased during the month for Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge to spot check. It took 2 days for the two of them to finish inspecting the goods. As before, they found some defective and flawed items, but not too many. This prompted Lu Changxing to inquire if Lu Miaoge's suppliers for the shop weren't long-term partners, why there were always some defective and flawed items in every shipment. Faced with this question, Lu Miaoge merely said that although they were long-term collaborators, only some were fixed and long-term. There were sometimes changes, necessitating the search for new suppliers. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded in understanding. He recognized that the Lu family supply chain was not entirely stable. Thus, quality issues like this were simply unavoidable. Thinking ahead to 2 months from now, when Lu Miaoge would no longer be around to help, Lu Changxing felt a headache coming on. After all, inspecting goods was truly a tedious and grueling task. Once they had completed their checks and handed the confirmed list to Zhang Shan, Lu Changxing also agreed with Lu Miaoge to return to Jianghu mountain in 2 days' time. 2 days later, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle back to Jianghu mountain. Xiao Qing naturally stayed in Nine Dragons Market, as she could not be expected to follow him around. When he was to return to Nine Dragons Market, he would bring Guan Xian with him too, and with more people, it would be inconvenient. The two had a smooth journey back to Jianghu mountain. Upon returning home, Lu Changxing learned that his 25th child had been born. And on the 3rd day after his return, his 26th child was also born. No unexpected surprises occurred. Both children were born without a spiritual root. Lu Changxing took this fact in stride. There was still a month's time before Lu Miaoyun was due to give birth. Lu Changxing had some expectations and paid special attention to the child in Lu Miaoyun's womb. He even thought to himself that perhaps he should stay in Jianghu mountain this month to wait for Lu Miaoyun to give birth and see the child before leaving. However, considering that a month after Lu Miaoyun's delivery, it would be time for Chu Zhenshan's child to be born. He couldn't very well wait for one and not the other. Chapter 99, Lu Changxing, a full-time artisan. This matter is not about scarcity, but about uneven distribution. If everyone waits, I feel like there's no need for me to go out at all. In the end, Lu Changxing decided to spend the next few days in close companionship. Then, estimating the time, he planned to come home early and stay a few extra days. It could also be considered a special privilege for his wife. During these 3 days at home, Lu Changxing still spent time with his wives and daughters, hardly cultivating or making talismans. This time, going to listen to the 4th elder's talisman instruction, the 4th elder also handed over the talismans for the monthly shop restocking directly to Lu Changxing. The number of talismans wasn't large, consisting of 3 supreme talismans, 30 superior grade talismans, and 30 middle grade talismans. This made Lu Changxing secretly wonder if the 4th elder drew only 1 superior grade and 1 middle grade talisman each day. However, he also remembered that the Lu family had several shops in other marketplaces, and the 4th elder probably needed to supply a portion of the talismans there as well. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed, and Lu Changxing took Lu Miaoge back to Nine Dragons Market. Seeing Lu Changxing return with Guan Xian, Lu Miaoge sighed softly. After all, just last month, she had told Lu Changxing that cultivation level and strength are fundamental. Lu Changxing at that time also firmly agreed. But it hadn't been long since then, and not only did he buy a maid at Nine Dragons Market, but he also brought another maid from home. Nevertheless, she wasn't one to talk too much. Once she had said something, it was enough, and she wouldn't bring it up a second time. After returning to Nine Dragons Market, Lu Changxing used the housing deed to issue Guan Xian a free residency card and settled her in comfortably. He instructed her to communicate with Xiao Qing about anything she needed. Now in this place, Xiaoqing was mainly in charge. In the time that followed, Lu Changxing resumed his comfortable life of daily cultivation, talisman making, childbearing, and going to and from work. During this period, Gao He came over to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Changxing. For someone as amiable as Gao He, Lu Changxing was naturally polite, chatting over tea for half an hour and enriching Gao He's understanding considerably. 10 days later, Lu Changxing learned that Xiaoqing was pregnant. He was extremely joyful at this news. After all, Xiaoqing possessed a 9th grade spiritual root, which greatly increased the chances of having a child with a spiritual root. But then, a faint worry emerged in his heart. Whenever there was something to be done, he had always relied on Xiaoqing. Now that Xiaoqing was pregnant, it wasn't good to have her bustling about anymore. Thinking that anybody capable of working by his side would soon be pregnant and unable to work, he realized that he would never have someone stable by his side to handle tasks. I need to find someone, specifically to do the work, to be the steward of this courtyard, Lu Changxing thought to himself. His mind suddenly turned to the bee-steered girls of White Jade Tower. These bee-steered girls were cultivated by White Jade Tower through special methods and secret techniques, rendering them barren. Purchasing one as a steward seemed like a good idea. However, these bee-steered girls were quite expensive. They typically cost several tens of spirit stones, easily exceeding 100 spirit stones. A suitable one for his liking would no doubt cost over 100 spirit stones. To spend over 100 spirit stones on a bee-steered girl seemed too wasteful to Lu Changxing. Especially since he was in urgent need of spirit stones at the moment. No, that's not right. I'm not a stud horse, nor is it that women in my yard must become pregnant. If I arrange for 2 maids specifically to do the work and ensure they don't become pregnant, that should do. Lu Changxing came back to his senses, somewhat speechless at his previous thoughts, feeling that he had fallen into a mental trap thinking about childbearing day after day. As a cultivator, he might not be able to guarantee that a woman would become pregnant. But ensuring that a woman doesn't become pregnant was still within his capabilities. Remembering that he still had 7 maids at White Jade Tower yet to be sent to him, he anticipated they would arrive soon. Lu Changxing decided to pick 2 of them to be in charge of household affairs when they arrived. The next day, Gao He came over again to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Changxing. This made Lu Changxing shake his head in amusement. In his opinion, as neighbors, this sort of thing should just be an occasional conversation. If they really wanted to talk, there wasn't much to talk about in this area. Mainly because the 2 were not on the same level. Discussing the talisman path with Gao He was like a professor discussing elementary school homework with a grade school student. However, he also knew that it was his own insightful performances during their past conversations that had led to Gao He's improvements in the talisman path, which is why he kept coming back. This time, Lu Changxing was careful to appear comparatively more ordinary. One reason was to discourage Gao He from constantly coming to him to talk about the talisman path, and another was that he couldn't show off too much since he was outwardly just a middle-grade talisman master. In the course of their chat, Lu Changxing also inquired about the business model and daily operations of Gao He's spiritual talisman shop, to see if there was anything he could learn for himself. Gao He didn't conceal anything and shared the truth. The spiritual talisman shop he presided over was quite similar in business model to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, only lacking in supply, quality control, and variety of talismans compared to the Lu family's shop. Lu Changxing nodded slightly, gaining a basic understanding. In fact, whether it's a spirit talisman shop, an elixir medicines shop, a magic artifact shop, or a formation shop, etc., as long as you have the strength, your business won't do poorly. It can certainly thrive. For the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, in addition to the renown of Qing Zhu and the Lu family, the core competitive power lies in the 4th Elder's 3 supreme talismans and 30 superior grade talismans. As long as I keep up the prize draws, maybe I can become a full-time craftsman. By then, I can train my children in this direction or cultivate more craftsmen, ensuring not only a stable income for the family but also sparing my children from having to fight to the death outside to earn resources. Chapter 100, I, Lu Changxing, a full-time artisan. _4, after all, what I seek is stability, and having everything stable outweighs everything else. Lu Changxing thought again about his future path. 3 days later. A servant from White Jade Tower came over, indicating that the maids Lu Changxing had purchased had been delivered. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing and the servant went to White Jade Tower. He was greeted by the same charming and seductive Feng Jionyang as always. Every time he saw Feng Jionyang, Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh in admiration. What a stunning beauty. Master Lu, are you satisfied? Feng Jionyang led the 7 maids over and asked Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing didn't continue using the name Hanli, he revealed his real name. After all, he just impulsively borrowed a false name at the time. And he knew that the manager of White Jade Tower obviously knew his true identity. There was no point in hiding it anymore. Otherwise, it felt weird every time he was addressed as Master Han, and he would have to explain it to the maids he bought afterwards. No problem. Lu Changxing looked at the 7 utterly charming and distinct maids before him and nodded. These 7 maids were not only beautiful and well-formed. Some of them were skilled in martial arts and had practiced charming lady elemental cultivation. Otherwise, for mere ordinary maids, he wouldn't have spent 116 spirit stones to buy 9 maids. At White Jade Tower, you truly get what you pay for. After handing over the remaining spirit stones, Lu Changxing took the spiritual contracts of the 7 women, left White Jade Tower with them, and went back to his residence. Walking down the street with the 7 enticing maids following him made Lu Changxing turn many heads. Who is that young master? To be out and about with 7 charming lasses. Don't know him, he must be a young master from some family. Seems to be the new boss of the Jianghu Lu family spirit talisman shop. That's the life I dream of. They're just ordinary mortal women. I could have as many of such women as I want. Look at their appearance, figure, and demeanor, they're obviously not average worldly women. I just saw him come out of White Jade Tower, must have bought them there. To be rich, how nice. Indulging in pleasure and women, how can one cultivate in such a state? Exactly, this is nothing but decadent behavior. Passers-by looked at Lu Changxing with envy and jealousy, disdain, or measured up Lu Changxing with different expressions. Many women also gave Lu Changxing sidelong glances, and upon seeing his handsome face, tall and straight stature, and his composed and gentle demeanor, their eyes lit up with interest. Some female cultivators even mustered the courage to approach Lu Changxing and struck up a conversation, asking whether he was married or if he had any intentions of taking a wife. Faced with such forward propositions, although Lu Changxing was somewhat tempted, he declined them all. He stated he was already married and had no intentions of taking another wife at this time, though he might consider concubines and maids. His caution wasn't just personal prudence towards marriage. He also had considerations towards the Lu family. In his view, taking a few concubines and buying some maids to serve him was one thing. But constantly taking new wives would be disrespectful towards Lu Miaoyun and the Lu family. After all, it had been less than a year since he married Lu Miaoyun. Shortly thereafter, Lu Changxing quickly returned home with the 7 women. Looks like in the future when buying maids from White Jade Tower, they'll either bring them back in batches or have White Jade Tower deliver them directly to my home. Otherwise, this kind of situation is a bit too conspicuous. Not only does it feel like being watched like a monkey, but it could even lead to being targeted as a fat sheep. Back home, Lu Changxing reflected inwardly. Regarding the envious glances and propositions from the passers-by on the road, he didn't feel any bit of swagger. Instead, he felt uneasy, worried about becoming a target. Little Qing, Xiao Yuyao, and Guan Xian, seeing their young master bringing back 7 delightful maids all at once, didn't know what to say for a moment. But remembering Lu Changxing's abundant energy at night, they soon came to terms with it. Knowing that before long, all 7 would likely be pregnant. From now on you'll be called Yi Lian, you'll be called Hong Mian, you'll be called Zi Mei, you'll be called Sang Lan, and at this moment, Lu Changxing began naming his newly arrived 7 maids. The previous two maids he had named Hai Tang and Bai He, so he thought it would be good to unify the names. Yes, master. These maids were all very sensible. That night, Lu Changxing also began to understand and experience the exceptional treasures that Lu Miaoqing once mentioned. Chapter 101, Dare Two Mere Energy Refinement Late-Stage Cultivators to Ambush Me? _1, Sister Miaoga, Miaoyun might give birth in a few days, so I plan to leave for Qingzhou Mountain today. That day, Lu Changxing went to the spiritual talisman shop and said to Lu Miaoga. He had already discussed this matter with Lu Miaoga before, planning to go back these 2 months in advance, to try to be there when Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenqian's child is born. Alright, be careful on your way, I'll keep an eye on the shop here. Hearing this, Lu Miaoga nodded slightly and spoke softly. After saying farewell to Lu Miaoga, Lu Changxing left Nine Dragons Marketplace alone, mounted the Iron Feather Eagle, and embarked on his journey to Qingzhou Mountain. Just as Lu Changxing was exiting the gates of Nine Dragons Marketplace, at a restaurant nearby, a lean middle-aged man revealed a trace of unusual brightness in his eyes and took out a transmission talisman from his person. High above the clouds, an Iron Feather Eagle soared. Could it be that something unexpected will happen on my way home alone? Sitting cross-legged on the Iron Feather Eagle, Lu Changxing couldn't help but worry. It was alright when he was with Lu Miaoga. It was only his first trip to Nine Dragons Market that he worried about potential mishaps. But after 2 round trips, he felt much better. Suddenly traveling alone now made him feel a bit uneasy again. Sigh, I really am a person who fears death and lacks a sense of security, even with 34 superior grade talismans, 1 supreme talisman, and a talisman treasure on me, I still feel insecure. Lu Changxing shook his head slightly, with a clear understanding of himself. After the Iron Feather Eagle flew for half a day, the unease in Lu Changxing's heart calmed down a lot. He thought, how could there be so many dangers? However, just at that moment, Screech, the Iron Feather Eagle, soaring through the clouds, seemed to be stimulated by something, letting out a sharp and noisy cry. It made Lu Changxing, who was sitting quietly on its back, feel his heart leap. Before he could understand what was happening, the Iron Feather Eagle spread its wings and dove towards a mountain peak below. What's going on? Lu Changxing quickly grabbed the Iron Feather Eagle's feathers to avoid being thrown off and took out the Beast Control token. Through the Beast Control token, he could sense an anxious and restless emotion coming from the Iron Feather Eagle. As if something on the mountain peak ahead was luring it. Could it be that there's some rare treasure or spirit fruit maturing on that mountain peak? Lu Changxing's first thought was that. However, he didn't entertain such thoughts. Because it is recorded in the books that when most rare treasures and exotic fruits mature, powerful demon beasts will be guarding them. It wasn't something he, a mere 4th-level Qi refinement weakling, could contemplate. Lu Changxing didn't think any further. He immediately used the Beast Control token to soothe the Iron Feather Eagle and commanded it to continue flying on the path. The Iron Feather Eagle, which was diving towards the mountain peak, hesitated slightly at his command. But the next moment, it let out an even noisier cry from its beak and furiously dove towards the mountain peak ahead. This is definitely not the maturation of some rare treasure. The Iron Feather Eagle, having been tamed, would normally never disobey an order and go out of control under normal circumstances. Lu Changxing's face darkened, holding tightly to the Iron Feather Eagle, realizing something was not quite right. But facing this situation, he didn't know how to handle the emergency. As the Iron Feather Eagle got closer and closer to the mountain peak, suddenly, swoosh, swoosh, 2 sounds of slicing through the air rang out. Lu Changxing immediately saw 2 sword lights shooting towards him like rainbows. The cold gleam of sword chi breathed in and out in the air, emitting a buzzing sound that intimidated the soul. Not good. In that moment, even if Lu Changxing was slow to react, he realized that he was being ambushed. He understood why the Iron Feather Eagle had suddenly gone out of control. Without waiting to think more, 2 flying swords were already coming at him, one before the other. Clang! Clang! When the two flying swords neared his body, he saw a green chi barrier appearing around him, accompanied by the rustling sound of his magical robe fluttering, and a pale light from the spirit pendant on his chest, forming a water blue shield, stopping the two flying swords outside. These were the passive body-protecting techniques of his robe's magic artifact and the spirit pendant. However, under the onslaught of the flying swords, both protective techniques dimmed considerably. Lu Changsheng's face darkened. Without time to be scared or hesitate, he immediately took out a talisman from his storage bag. He used a flying ascension talisman and a golden light barrier talisman on himself, causing the wind to rise under his feet and a sense of lightness to envelop him, allowing for brief flight, and a thick layer of golden bell enveloped him. Clang! Clang! The two sharp rainbow-like flying swords struck at Lu Changsheng again, colliding with the bell and producing two sonorous metallic sounds. Even with the protection of the golden bell shield talisman, Lu Changsheng felt a great force shock his body. But the shock didn't harm him, it merely made him somewhat unsteady on the back of the iron feather eagle. Escape! Without hesitation, Lu Changsheng, aided by the flying ascension talisman, leaped into the air from the back of the iron feather eagle and fled in the opposite direction. Now that he knew someone was setting him up, he also roughly guessed why the iron feather eagle lost control and was frantically diving towards the mountain peak. It was certainly not because of some exotic fruit maturing. It was a demon-attracting fragrance. A kind of incense made specifically for demon beasts. It was capable of attracting demon beasts, making those with little spiritual intelligence be instinctively drawn by it, filled with wildness. Many hunters and cultivators would use demon-attracting fragrance to lure and hunt demon beasts. The way the iron feather eagle was behaving, it was most likely affected by the demon-attracting fragrance. Chapter 102, Two Mere Energy Refinement. Late-stage cultivators dare to ambush me? So he had no choice but to abandon it. Trying to run, where do you think you're going? I've been squatting on you for so long, did you really think you could escape? Seeing Lu Changsheng trying to flee with the help of a flying ascension talisman, two figures, one fat and one skinny, immediately shot up into the sky from the mountain peak where the iron feather eagle was diving. They were stepping on a round flying artifact, rapidly pursuing Lu Changsheng. Controlling a flying artifact. Both these men are at the energy refinement late stage. When Lu Changsheng saw the two figures that appeared, his heart sank once again. He knew that with the speed granted by the flying ascension talisman, he would never be able to outrun these two men. He decided to land on the spot and try to escape using an escape talisman. This kid was able to pull out 3 superior grade talismans. He must have other life-saving talismans on him. We absolutely cannot let him get away. However, these two were not simple characters. Both their eyesight and techniques were exceedingly shrewd. While chasing Lu Changsheng with the flying artifact, they controlled 2 flying swords to continue attacking him, blocking his escape route. They also cast various spells, treating him like a live target, causing the golden light around Lu Changsheng to rapidly dim. This won't work. In this situation, it's difficult to even land. Lu Changsheng knew that he was a live target. To rely on talismans to hold on until he landed and then try to escape using another talisman was very unlikely. Moreover, he didn't know whether the other two had other means of pursuit. The best plan was to retaliate and kill the 2 men. So what if it's the energy refinement late stage? They're just 2 energy refinement late stage cultivators. With the talismans and talisman treasures I have on me, should I be afraid of those at the energy refinement late stage? With a fierce look in his eyes, Lu Changsheng promptly applied another golden bell shield talisman to himself, ready to counterattack. Another golden bell shield talisman? This kid is just a middle-grade talisman master. How can he have so many superior-grade talismans? Indeed, a fat sheep. All that waiting hasn't been in vain. The fat and skinny duo, seeing this, had their eyes gleaming sharply, filled with greed and viciousness. Just as they intensified their offensive, Lu Changsheng also turned around and threw out a batch of talismans. All of them were middle and lower grade talismans, about 20 in total. This was the most Lu Changsheng could stimulate at once with his mental spirit. Any more than that, and he wouldn't be able to control them properly. Under the control of Lu Changsheng's mental spirit and spiritual power, these talismans transformed into fireballs, rolling boulders, ice spikes, wind blades, sharp arrows, cold winds. With a ferocious momentum, they all howled towards the fat and tall duo. So many talismans? The dark fat man, upon seeing this, was shocked and hurriedly brought out an earthy yellow shield magic artifact to block this overwhelming offensive. Lu Changsheng's talismans hit the shield, only creating thuds. While resisting the attack, the dark fat man called out to the skinny white man, "Stop dilly-dallying, get rid of this kid quickly. Otherwise, if we let him use up all his talismans, we'll be at a huge loss." In their eyes, everything on Lu Changsheng was as good as in their pockets. Every talisman used was like spending their money. The skinny white man didn't reply, but he harbored the same thoughts, his eyes flashing dangerously. He slapped his storage bag, and with a spell gesture, summoned a cold gleaming curved saber magic artifact. Like a crescent moon, the curved saber flew towards Lu Changsheng with a swiftness that cut through the air. However, at this moment, Lu Changsheng also applied another golden light barrier talisman on himself, and simultaneously cast 3 more talismans. The previous assortment of middle and lower grade talismans was just the appetizer. It was merely to distract them for a moment. Now was the main event. Hum. A sound like thunder rumbled through the void, causing the air to tremble slightly. Superior grade talisman, soul-shaking talisman. It was designed to shock the mental spirit of others, inducing panic, fear, and unease. The soul-shaking talisman used by Lu Changsheng caught the fat and skinny duo somewhat off guard. In that moment, their minds went blank, overwhelmed by fear, and they were momentarily dazed. However, right in that instant. Boom! Boom! 2 talismans flew out, enshrouded in purple lightning, turning into 2 violent thunderstrikes aimed at the 2 men. Superior grade talisman, thunder summoning talisman. It could summon a thunderstrike comparable to a 9th level energy refinement cultivator's strike. Even normally, the 2 men would struggle to cope with such a thunder summoning talisman. Especially now, caught off guard by the soul-shaking talisman, their mental spirits compromised. Boom! Boom! The shield magic artifact that the dark fat man had summoned, already barely holding up under the relentless barrage of talismans, could hardly block it all. When the thunderstrike hit, the earthy yellow shield flew straight out of his hands, and while he was still not back to his senses, was overwhelmed by the talisman offensive. The skinny white man, with a somewhat stronger will and mental spirit, quickly regained his composure. His eyes flashed with lightning, and he frantically generated a body-protecting chi barrier around himself. But at that moment, it was already too late. Ah! No! The body-protecting chi barrier shattered like flimsy paper under the ferocious attack of the thunder-summoning talisman. Soon after, the man let out a roar of unwillingness and disbelief. Suddenly, 2 charred bodies fell from the sky. Both bodies turned to char, crumbling into ash in midair. The curved saber magic artifact that was still attacking Lu Changsheng's golden light barrier lost spiritual power support and fell straight down from the sky. They're dead just like that? Holding the thunder talisman and golden light barrier talisman treasure, Lu Changsheng, still ready to continue, saw that the 2 men were turned to char under the attack of the thunder summoning talisman and fell from the sky. He was momentarily stunned. It was just getting started, and the 2 men were already gone. But in an instant, he understood clearly that the battles between cultivators often ended in the blink of an eye. Chapter 103, 2 mere energy refinement late-stage cultivators dare to ambush me? A single misstep, a mere carelessness, could easily result in death and the end of one's path in cultivation. Although both of them were formidable, they were only cultivators at the energy refinement late stage. Let alone facing a first-grade, high-quality thunder-summoning talisman. Without enough preparation to defend oneself, a single middle-grade talisman could potentially cost one their life directly. At this time, Lu Changsheng finally let out a slight sigh of relief. He let the heart that had been stuck in his throat settle down. That was close. Without my magical robe and the cold jade pendant, I wouldn't have even had a chance to use a talisman when that flying sword suddenly came at me. Lu Changxing swallowed with his dry throat, filled with lingering fear in his heart. He felt that his awareness of danger was still severely lacking. At the first sign of the iron feather eagle losing control, he should have sensed the danger, become alert, and been ready to defend himself. Instead of waiting like just now, realizing the problem was dangerous only after the flying sword had come out and was about to strike. My experience in this area is seriously lacking. Lu Changxing let out another breath, licked his lips, and silently thought. He also knew that such awareness couldn't be improved overnight, it needed to be accumulated and cultivated. He planned to prepare more body-protecting magic artifacts for himself after returning to Nine Dragons Market, ensuring he was fully armed. Otherwise, if he encountered this situation again or met robber cultivators more formidable than those two, the protective techniques of the magical robe and cold jade pendant would be insufficient. Based on the conversation between those two just now, it seems like they were specifically waiting for me here. I've always been kind to others, never offended anyone, and have no enemies. Why would anyone be lying in wait for me? The only possibility is that I was targeted in Nine Dragons Market. Lu Changxing thought about his expenditures in the Nine Dragons Market over the past couple of months. If someone paid attention, they could see that he was quite wealthy, a juicy target. There's a saying that one shouldn't flaunt their wealth. Once you show your wealth, you're likely to be targeted. While Nine Dragons Market may be safe, it does not mean that the people within are all good. As soon as you leave Nine Dragons Market, any cultivator inside could potentially become a robber cultivator. Moreover, as a fourth-level energy refinement cultivator, in the eyes of most cultivators, I am nothing but a piece of fat meat, a child holding gold. Lu Changxing also understood this point and didn't dwell on it, deciding to be more cautious going forward. He looked around and saw no trace of other people. Immediately, he used a flying ascension talisman to descend towards the ground to collect his spoils of war. Just now, both men turned to charred bodies and ash under the onslaught of talismans, leaving only their robes and boots wrapped around the remains. These must be magic artifacts, right? Lu Changxing looked at the clothes and boots, his eyes lighting up. If these were ordinary clothes, they would not have survived the talisman attack just now. He stepped forward and performed a cleansing technique, cleaning away the remnants and ashes inside the robe and shoes, then picked up the robe to examine it. Under the attack of the talismans just now, the robes had suffered slight damages and were probably only of lower grade. Inside both robes, he found a storage bag. This brought a hint of joy to Lu Changxing's face. After all, in such a perilous fight of life and death, the spoils were the only thing worth looking forward to. He did not check the contents of the two storage bags right away, choosing to pocket them first. He then searched around and found both men's flying artifacts, flying swords, as well as shield artifacts, and curved saber artifacts. After collecting everything, Lu Changxing felt that this haul should be quite substantial. He took out the beast control token to sense the condition of the iron feather eagle. If the iron feather eagle were gone, getting back to Jianghu Mountain would be quite troublesome for him. Even if he got back to the Nine Dragons Market, he would only be able to do so by running. Through the beast control token, he could sense a faint connection with the iron feather eagle. It should still be on the peak. As I suspected, the two robber cultivators must have used demon beast lure to send the iron feather eagle out of control, rushing to the mountaintop, he thought. An iron feather eagle is worth hundreds of spirit stones. As robber cultivators out for wealth, they naturally wouldn't harm the iron feather eagle, he reasoned. Otherwise, when I was riding on the iron feather eagle, they would have attacked it directly instead of me, he deduced. Lu Changxing thought for a moment and decided to go to the peak to retrieve the iron feather eagle. Seeing that the effects of the flying ascension talisman on him were wearing off, Lu Changxing gritted his teeth, took out another talisman, and used it on himself. Then, with caution in his heart, he hastened toward the mountaintop. Though only two people had come to assassinate him just now, they likely didn't have accomplices. But given what had just happened, it was best to be extra cautious. Moreover, demon beasts might also be present between these forested mountains. When Lu Changxing arrived at the peak with great caution, he immediately saw a light brown incense stick as big as an adult's arm, burning on a giant boulder on the mountaintop. Thick white wisps of smoke were slowly floating upward, spreading into the air. Meanwhile, the iron feather eagle was next to the incense, squawking violently and uneasily. It really is demon beast lure, he confirmed. It seems these two went to great lengths to ambush me, preparing well in advance and putting in a lot of effort, he surmised. Wait a minute, I left the 9 Dragons market ahead of schedule to go home. How could they calculate my movements so accurately if they were lying in wait out here, he wondered. Surely, they can't be lighting a demon beast lure every day in advance, can they, he questioned. And looking at this demon beast lure, it appears to have only been burning for about 2 or 3 hours, he observed. Lu Changsheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the burning demon beast lure in front of him. He sensed that something was amiss. The attackers must have another accomplice. This accomplice was likely in the 9 Dragons market, watching him in secret. The moment he left the 9 Dragons market, they would signal here. Otherwise, how could they be so precise? After all, the iron feather eagle was already quite fast. To prepare even faster, only a transmission talisman would do. It seems I'll need to be even more careful when I return to the 9 Dragons market, he reflected inwardly. He didn't approach the violently uneasy iron feather eagle. He took out a water bullet talisman, activated it to form a water bullet, and shot it at the demon beast lure to extinguish it. With the scent extinguished, the iron feather eagle calmed down quite a bit. Lu Changxing used the beast control token to attempt to command the iron feather eagle and assess its condition. But he found that the iron feather eagle was still in a disturbed animalistic state, not very obedient to commands. It will probably take at least a day for the effects of the demon beast lure on the iron feather eagle to wear off, he estimated. Lu Changxing sighed, feeling somewhat helpless. He knew it would take quite some time for the incense that provoked the demon beast's instincts to fade completely. Right away, he took out a spirit-nourishing pill and threw it to the iron feather eagle to help stabilize its mood by eating. Then he used the beast control token to store the iron feather eagle back into the spiritual pet bag, planning to find a cave to hide in for the time being. Otherwise, if he waited here for the iron feather eagle to recover, the accomplices of the 2 robber cultivators from earlier might arrive any moment. Chapter 104, Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. _1 Lu Changxing, using a flying ascension talisman, flew at full force and arrived at a cliff cave several miles away. He used a purification talisman to check himself all over, to see if there were any tricks left behind. After confirming there were no problems, he began to clean up the loot in the 2 storage bags. In total, there were 362 spirit stones. 3 lower-grade magic artifacts and 1 middle-grade magic artifact. A number of elixir medicines. A number of spiritual medicines. A number of talismans. A bunch of miscellaneous items. Lu Changxing estimated that these items were worth 600 to 700 spirit stones. Adding the vestment robe, magic boots, flying sword, shield, curved saber, and flying artifact he had just acquired, it casually amounted to over 1,000 spirit stones. It could be said to be a huge sum of money. A hint of joy appeared on his face. This haul was much more significant than what he had collected before at Bullhead Mountain. One could only say that there were different levels of robber cultivators. Being a robber cultivator at a place like 9 Dragons Market was certainly more prosperous than in a mundane place like Bullhead Mountain. Of course, the risk was also much higher. Lu Changxing took out a high-grade purification talisman and purified all the items to check if there were any problems. Indeed, under the effect of the purification talisman, 3 items showed signs of branding marks. After destroying these items along with some other suspicious ones that he did not recognize, Lu Changxing continued to flee to another place. Thinking that fleeing on his own could leave traces and scents, and also consume too much spiritual power and physical strength, Lu Changxing immediately took out an escape talisman and used it. Suddenly, spiritual light surged around him, enveloping his entire being as he dove into the ground, traveling swiftly like a mole before bursting forth. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Lu Changxing appeared several miles away. Phew! As soon as Lu Changxing emerged from the ground, he breathed in the air. He immediately smelled a stench. Gurgle. He turned his head and saw, not far off, a black wild boar over 2 to 3 meters tall and 5 to 6 meters long, with hair like pine needles, staring at him. Its snout was puffing white smoke, and its tusks were sharp and fierce. A demon beast. With one look at the large wild boar, Lu Changsheng's heart skipped a beat, knowing that it was not an animal, but a demon beast. Gurgle. Before he could take another look, the large boar let out a low roar, its tusks emitting a faint black light, and charged straight at him. Seeing this, Lu Changxing quickly took out a mid to lower grade talisman to use. The talisman burst into light, transforming into a barrier of water and light that protected him. Then vines and earthen prisons appeared, trapping the boar, followed by a barrage of fireballs, wind blades, and arrows bombarding the beast. Boom, boom, boom. Awoo, awoo, awoo. Under the onslaught of 10 to 20 talismans, the boar let out a mournful howl before it could get close to Lu Changxing. Its body scorched black, blood gushing out, it eventually collapsed with a cry of agony. This should only be a first-grade beginner demon beast. Perhaps I could have killed it with my flying sword with a bit of effort. This feels rather wasteful. Lu Changxing looked at the fallen boar and shook his head slightly. Just one of his talismans cost tens to almost 100 spirit stones. And a beast like this, if sold, probably would fetch around 100 spirit stones only. Moreover, with its body so severely damaged by his talisman assault, the price would definitely be a lot lower. Forget it, such a small thing isn't worth skimping on. After all, I only have one life. I'd rather waste a bit than make a single mistake. Lu Changxing consoled himself with a word, not feeling too heartbroken. He took out his flying sword, roughly butchered the large wild boar, and stuffed it into his storage bag. Storing demon beast meat in the storage bag also had a shelf life. Probably after 7 or 8 days, the quality of the meat would be affected. However, upon returning to Jianghu Mountain, besides consuming it himself, he could also feed it to the 9 Netherhound. Over the past 2 years, he had mostly fed the 9 Netherhound ordinary raw meat, only occasionally giving it demon beast flesh to eat. It couldn't be helped, as feeding it demon beast meat every day was too expensive to maintain. If he weren't worried about accidents, he would have liked to find a mountain range to let the 9 Netherhound roam free. Waiting for the 9 Netherhound to grow through constant battles and struggles to become a demon king of its own territory, then come back to carry him soaring. After cleaning up the surroundings, Lu Changxing began looking for a place to settle down for the night. He planned to rest for a day and then leave when the Iron Feather Eagle had recovered. During this process, to avoid encountering other demon beasts, Lu Changxing was very careful and cautious. He eventually came across a tiger demon beast in a cave. Without hesitation, Lu Changxing used a talisman to instantly kill the first-grade beginner tiger demon and entered the cave. He planned to spend the night here. It's just for one night, nothing else should happen, right? Lu Changxing lay on the tiger skin rug, feeling somewhat weary. While the use of talismans did not drain him, using so many had taken quite a toll on his mental spirit. After taking a couple of sips of white jade 100 flowers wine, Lu Changxing took out a spirit stone and began to meditate and cultivate. The night gradually fell. In the wilderness between the forests, the sounds of wild animals roaring and shrieking filled the night, making it very unsettling. At this time, dozens of miles away, atop a mountain peak, screech. A giant eagle with pitch-black feathers and wings spanning several zhang landed. On the back of the black eagle stood a stout middle-aged man. The man, dressed in a black robe, seemed to blend in with the night. He hopped down from the back of the eagle, his eyes gleaming faintly in the night, and began to inspect the surroundings. After checking the surroundings, Zhou Guanglong muttered to himself, "It looks like I've been outdone. Just a chi refinement 4th level young master, and he possesses such strength and means? Then, with a light step, his agile figure leaped into the air and landed back on the eagle's back. Chapter 105, Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. The black-winged eagle immediately soared into the night sky. It hadn't flown far when suddenly, a violent surge of light erupted in the distance. This light was so brilliant that it was like a great sun ascending in the night sky, too dazzling to look at directly. What is this? Zhou Guanglong on the back of the black-winged eagle looked toward the source of the light. But with his peak chi refinement cultivation level, he couldn't see it clearly. As the light dimmed slightly, a clash of colorful halos and black-red tornadoes could be seen colliding together, erupting with thunderous booms. Boom, boom, boom. The two streams of light moved across the sky, constantly colliding and sweeping across, unleashing a heavenly turbulence. The shockwaves that landed on the mountains below caused them to tremble violently and crumble incessantly. The fierce birds and beasts in the forest were so frightened that they trembled and fled in all directions. This is a battle between nascent soul immortals. Zhou Guanglong finally made out that within the colorful halos and the black-red tornadoes, there were faintly visible figures, a woman dressed in colorful garments and an old man in red robes. They exchanged blows, lighting up the night sky and making the clouds roll and unfold. Run, we must quickly escape from here. Seeing that the two nascent soul immortals were moving in his direction, he immediately urged his black-winged eagle to leave quickly. However, at this moment, the large black eagle beneath him, under the astonishing aura in the distance, had already begun to let out cries of fear. Damn it, I've raised you for so long, and at the critical moment, you're totally unreliable, Zhou Guanglong cursed, seeing his pet mount tremble. But he knew that although his black-winged eagle had high-rank bloodline, it was after all only at late first grade. In the face of such terrifying auras from nascent soul immortals, it would instinctively feel fear and terror. It wasn't just pets, he himself was also panicking. After all, this was a battle between nascent soul immortals. If even a slight shockwave hit him, he would be either dead or crippled. Right then, he had the black-winged eagle land straight away, planning to find a place to hide. Otherwise, being in the air was just too conspicuous. He might be noticed by one of the battling nascent soul immortals who found him bothersome and killed him with a flick of their hand. In the night sky, the woman in colorful garments wielded a long sword, and with every swing, rocks and debris were sent flying, creating countless waves. He, Yun Wanshang, you can't escape. You've been touched by my red phoenix karma fire, so you'd better surrender willingly. However, the old man in red robes was shrouded in black-red mist that gradually turned pink, making the sword light pass through him without effect, piercing right through him. Ha ha ha, around the old man, the pink mist churned, stirring up strong winds and agitating the spiritual energy around him. Amidst the mist, the sound of men's and women's soft moans constantly assailed the mental spirit, stirring up inner desires. So this is a nascent soul immortal, truly terrifying. Zhou Guanglong had just landed when a shockwave hit close by. The terrifying force made his blood roil, and where the shockwave hit the ground, a crater several zhang wide appeared. He was not only at the peak of chi refinement but also practiced body refinement, yet even just a touch of a shockwave made him sense danger. He dashed towards another area, while keeping an eye on the shockwaves above to avoid getting hit. If he died like this, it would be unjust and frustrating. After running for a while, he saw the woman with the long sword in the night sky summon an ancient mirror above her head. This ancient mirror flowed with golden light, which shone like a great sun in the night sky, and shot a fierce light at the old man in red robes. Then with one slash of her sword, a bright golden divine thunder appeared in the sky. Ah, Yun Wanshang, you've actually mastered the divine sword thunder commandment. Confronted by the golden divine thunder, the old man in red robes let out a pitiful, shrieking howl, with blood spurting from his mouth. Yun Wanshang, divine sword thunder commandment, could this colorful-robed woman be none other than Kaiyun true immortal from Qingyun sect? Who is this old man in red robes daring to strike a Qingyun sect's Kaiyun true immortal within the territory of Jianghu country? Zhou Guanglong, hiding in the woods, felt terrified upon hearing the scream in the air. But in the next moment, he saw the old man in red robes bring out a small cauldron, from which red flames billowed, setting the heavens ablaze and causing a rain of fire to fall from the sky. Zhou Guanglong was petrified, and without hesitation, he pulled out a hammer-shaped magical artifact to smash out a cave in the nearby mountain wall, where he quickly hid himself. He also took out an umbrella-shaped magical artifact to block the entrance to the cave to avoid being hit by the rain of fire. Truly, when immortals fight, mortals suffer. I, Zhou Guanglong, am at least a figure of some status and have seen all sorts of scenes. But in front of nascent soul immortals, I am nothing but an ant. Zhou Guanglong gasped for breath in the cave. Soon, there was a shaking of the ground and tremors of the mountain, and after a while, things seemed to calm down outside. Just as he was considering whether to go out, he heard voices talking outside. Yun Wanshang, you're being burnt by the red phoenix karma fire. If you don't unite with me, your death is certain. If you agree to unite with me, using your Tongyu Phoenix marrow body to heal me and aid my cultivation, I, Huyan Shao, am willing to make the heart demon great oath and henceforth be loyal to you. An old and weak voice rang out. Red Phoenix old demon Huyan Shao. Zhou Guanglong immediately recognized the identity of the old man in red robes upon hearing the conversation outside. He was also a nascent soul immortal of Jianghu country. A loose cultivator by origin, but due to his domineering behavior and disregard for all prohibitions, he was also called Red Phoenix Old Demon. He never would have thought that this Red Phoenix Old Demon would dare to lay hands on a Qingyun sect nascent soul immortal and even seek to practice cultivation in union with her. Cough, cough, you can dream on. A crisp and icy voice responded. If you refuse, the karma fire will surge, and if it erupts, both of us will die here today. Chapter 106, Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. In the Red Phoenix True Scripture I cultivate, there is a dual cultivation secret technique. As long as you're willing to become my Tao companion, in the future we both may have hope for nascent soul. The voice of Red One Old Demon was weak as he continued to speak. Huff. I'd rather die than, cough cough, let you, the cool voice of Cloud Gown Fairy rose, but it became more hurried, with panting breaths. Your body is already burning with Red Phoenix karma fire, I wonder how much longer you can suppress it, cough cough cough. The voice of Red One Old Demon was weak and sinister. You, huff, huff, won't you come out? At that moment, Cloud Gown Fairy's voice grew louder and more urgent, also carrying a captivating charm. Zhou Guanglong in the cave knew that the Fairy of Colorful Clouds was addressing himself. Although he possessed the peak Qi refinement cultivation level, how could he possibly conceal it from this nascent soul immortal? Another person? Cough cough, the voice of Red One Old Demon grew colder. Zhou Guanglong walked out from the cave and saw immediately in front of him a woman lying on the ground, clad in a colorful, radiant flowing gown made of gauze. The woman appeared to be in her mid-20s, her hair lightly coiled up and fixed with a glaze hairpin, a breathtakingly beautiful face at this moment flushed like peach blossoms, her slightly dazed beautiful eyes, and slightly parted lips, gently panting. Although he only heard of her great reputation and had never seen her in person, he knew at this moment that this supremely elegant woman was none other than the Fairy of Colorful Clouds, Yun Wanshang, from Qingyun sect. Not too far away on the ground lay a rugged-faced old man in red robes. Presumably, he was Red One Old Demon. The old demon looked unspeakably miserable. Not only was he vomiting blood, but there was also a huge sword wound cavity in his chest, with golden sword energy rampaging within it, making his whole Bodis aura chaotic and struggling desperately. I am an elder of Qingyun sect, Yun Wanshang, and this person is Red One Old Demon. As long as you help me eliminate him, my Qingyun sect will surely thank you heavily. Huff, 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 Yun Wanshang said to Zhou Guanglong, but now her face was flushed like peach blossoms, and even speaking seemed very hard for her. Kid, don't listen to her. What benefits can her Qingyun sect offer you? I suppose you're just one step from foundation establishment, right? You only need to bring her to me to help me heal, and afterwards, I will take you as my disciple, assist you in foundation establishment, and even core formation is not impossible. Seeing the situation, Red One Old Demon quickly spoke. Zhou Guanglong paused upon hearing the words of the two, glanced at Yun Wanshang, and then at Red One Old Demon. Kid, rest assured, I am willing to make a heart demon great oath. As long as you are willing to lend me a hand, even if I can't guarantee true elixir for you afterward, I will ensure you form a false core. Red One Old Demon pressed his advantage. Your words are witnessed here. Hearing this, Zhou Guanglong was visibly shaken and spoke. He took the path of a robber cultivator to strive for foundation establishment and become a foundation establishment great cultivator. As for core formation, that was something he didn't even dare to dream of. At this moment, moved by Red One Old Demon's promise of a false core, he was tremendously tempted. After all, Qin Yun's sect was not even within his considerations. If his actions were known by Qin Yun's sect, even if the sect forgave him, he would not receive any substantial benefits. Huff, 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 how can you believe the words of this demon head? Huff huff huff. Yun Wanshang, seeing Zhou Guanglong seemingly to side with Red One Old Demon, showed a trace of panic in her dazed beautiful eyes, gasping as she spoke. I, Huyan Xiao, have never sworn an oath in my life. If you don't believe me, cough cough cough. I can swear now. I, Huyan Xiao, swear that today, Red One Old Demon, unable to move as he lay on the ground, forcibly lifted his palm and began to swear. For cultivators, a heart demon oath, the higher the cultivation level, the more binding it is. Seeing him take the oath, Zhou Guanglong immediately knelt before the old man and said, Disciple Zhou Guanglong pays respect to master. Cough cough cough, very good, good disciple. Quickly bring your master's wife over to me. She is currently entangled by my red phoenix karma fire, her desires rising like a tide. As soon as I ignite it with my mana, it will erupt instantly. Red Phoenix Demon immediately bared his teeth and spoke. Yes, master. Zhou Guanglong nodded slightly and walked towards Yun Wanshang. Seeing Zhou Guanglong approaching, a flash of resolution appeared in Yun Wanshang's eyes. Her cultivation method and physique were special. If given time to recuperate, she could suppress the red phoenix karma fire. But unexpectedly, a cultivator nearby chose to assist the red phoenix demon. She could only sigh in resignation to fate and time. Immediately, she slapped her storage bag with mana meant to suppress the karma fire, and suddenly, a fist-sized purple bead appeared from the storage bag. Hoo hoo hoo. The bead burst into light, thunder and earth fire filling the air, and directly turned Zhou Guanglong and Red Phoenix Demon into ashes. At that moment, the only clarity left in Yun Wanshang's beautiful eyes vanished, her body quickly became hot, her skin like creamy white jade visibly turning pink. And just then, as if by instinct, she sensed something in the midst of the void and shot out like a divine rainbow. Meanwhile, not far away, inside a cave. Holy shit, it's finally quiet. The power and commotion just now, what level of fighting was that? It was terrifying, Lu Changxing said. Seeing that there was no noise outside and everything was completely quiet, he breathed a long sigh of relief and let the anxiety that had been caught in his throat dissipate. Anyone cultivating quietly at night would panic if suddenly there were rumbles, and two people began to fight, causing earthquakes and landslides. Sigh, I'll head back early tomorrow morning as soon as the Iron Feather Eagle recovers. I won't run back and forth anymore. It's better to bring Miaoyun and Jinjin directly to the Nine Dragons Market from now on, he pondered. Otherwise, constantly traveling back and forth, I might encounter danger. Lu Changxing thought to himself, feeling it's best not to leave the house if it isn't necessary. The outside world is just too dangerous. However, at that moment, a fragrant breeze suddenly wafted over. Before him appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, an exquisitely beautiful woman wearing colorful garments. Lu Changxing was taken aback by the sudden appearance of this breathtakingly beautiful woman. He hadn't even grasped how she had appeared. This woman was none other than Yun Wanshang. Her face was flushed, her alluring eyes as soft as autumn water, filled with lust as she looked directly at Lu Changxing and pounced on him. Lu Changxing was immediately pinned down by the woman and could not move. He struggled several times, but to no avail. He could clearly feel the heat of the woman's body before him. It felt like a raging fire was burning. He knew that her condition meant either she had been poisoned or was experiencing cultivation deviation. "Fairy, fairy, please comport yourself," Lu Changxing called out a few times, but the woman, out of her senses, didn't respond to his calls. Instead, she pinned him underneath her, and her moist lips came closer to kiss him. Who could withstand such a situation? Looking at the heavenly beauty before him, feeling her mature and soft body pressed against him, the intoxicating fragrance of her breath, Lu Changxing let out a soft sigh. If this situation was inescapable, then there was no point in resisting. He might as well choose to enjoy it. Lu Changxing lay back sprawled and relaxed. Afterward, the cave resounded with intense activity that lasted for a moment before a magical robe was thrown at the entrance of the cave. After a while, several more pieces of clothing were tossed out, including the intimate garments of the woman. Chapter 107, You Feel Wronged, But I Feel Wronged Too. _1 in the cave. Lu Changxing sat naked, hugging his knees, pitifully and helplessly crouching in the corner of the wall. He resembled a ravished fine lady or gentleman, looking aggrievedly at the stunning beauty in front of him. The beauty was draped in a multicolored gown that seemed made of rosy clouds, her eyes like autumn pools, her brows like distant mountains, her nose was high and proud, her lips red and moist as if dripping with color, her black hair slightly unkempt, loosely draped over her shoulders. Beneath the hem of her gown, a pair of snow-white delicate feet were bare, as if carved from jade and sculpted from snow, utter perfection, glimmering with a faint crystal sheen. The curve of her ankle was graceful, slender yet full, and the arch of her foot was curved like the moon, drawing an exquisitely beautiful arc. Her 5 toes were symmetrically neat, like white jade grapes, uncolored yet showing a rosy translucence, moist and tempting, inciting an urge in one to gently touch and play with them. In these 3 days, every part of this exquisite Bowtai's body, every inch of her skin, had been appreciated and touched by Lu Changxing. But at this moment, her voluptuous and tender enticing jade body took on a different aura when clothed in this garment. It was entirely different from the demeanor, posture, and expressions Lu Changxing had seen in these 3 days. It was as if she had become a different person. Although her chi seemed somewhat disordered, she looked extraordinarily noble. Like the lofty 9 heavens mysterious lady, untouched by worldly dust. One glance at her would make one feel ashamed, invoking a sense of unworthiness and a fear to blaspheme. She appeared to be right before one's eyes, yet she felt incredibly distant, making it hard to discern her face, hard to reach out to. Like a celestial maiden in the clouds, ready to ride the wind away at any moment. Yun Wanshang also looked indifferently at Lu Changxing before her. Within the depths of her eyes, which flowed like the Milky Way, there was a great complexity. She had always been proud and focused on her cultivation. Since embarking on the path of cultivation, over the past 100 years, she had encountered countless young heroes and genius demons. Yet not one of them had ever stirred her heart. But today, she, Yun Wanshang, Kaiyun true immortal of the Qingyun sect, a nascent soul immortal, had lost her chastity in such a wretched place, in this dilapidated cave. And the one to take it was a mere chi refinement stage junior cultivator. Such an energy refining cultivator, under normal circumstances, she might not even spare an additional glance. Yet, in this instance, he had directly taken her innocence and broken her Tongyu phoenix marrow body. Even with her centuries-old temperament, Yun Wanshang couldn't remain calm at this moment. A surge of humiliation and killing intent arose within her heart. Especially seeing his pitiful and helpless, aggrieved expression, which greatly irritated her. She longed to slay the young man before her to vent the hatred in her heart. How could it be? Could it be that this matter has wronged you? You feel wronged, but I am the one who feels even more so. Not only did I lose my innocence, but the spirit-nurturing energy of the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body was also taken by you, aiding in your marrow cleansing, and significantly advancing your cultivation level. And you still feel pitiful and aggrieved? Yun Wanshang grew more aggrieved the more she thought about it, wishing she could kill Lu Changxing to appease the resentment in her heart. But a part of her heart was somewhat reluctant. After all, he was the man who had taken her virginity. It left her with a strange feeling in her heart. Moreover, she also understood that this matter couldn't be entirely blamed on him. She even had to thank Lu Changxing for saving her life. When she used the Thunder Fire Pearl to kill the man in the black robe and the Red Phoenix Fiend, she was determined to face death. She was prepared to die from the burning of the Red Phoenix Karma Fire. If not for the young man before her, who, through their 3 days of union, extinguished the Karma Fire, she might already be extinguished under the Red Phoenix Karma Fire. Moreover, after the fire began to recede, she also regained a trace of clarity in her consciousness. She knew that the process was largely under her control. The junior cultivator at the Qi refinement stage couldn't resist during that time. He was at the mercy of her actions. Consider what happened between us just a dream. You'd best keep this matter to yourself forever, not a word to another soul, or I'll have to kill you. Yun Wanshang said with trembling lashes, her face expressionless. I understand, Lu Changxing replied, a sigh of relief in his heart. Although the woman before him was unimaginably beautiful and had been intimately involved with him for 3 whole days, he was well aware that in the cultivation world, there was no such thing as a fait accompli. To think that because he had taken her virginity, she would marry him was a fantasy. His pitiful and helpless demeanor was a ploy, dreading that she might want to kill him out of shame and indignation for losing her virginity to him, slapping him dead with a single blow. After all, Lu Changxing was acutely aware of the woman's formidable nature, her cultivation level deep and unfathomable. Otherwise, his cultivation level would not have soared during their 3 days of bliss. In her presence, he was no different from an ant. If she wished to kill him, he would have no power to resist. After speaking, as if to further reassure the woman, Lu Changxing earnestly continued, I will treat this matter as if it never happened, and will never mention it to anyone. If it leaks out, feel free to kill me. Yun Wanshang, on hearing Lu Changxing agree without hesitation to act as if nothing had happened, not only felt no joy but a hint of displeasure. But with a faint chill in her voice, she said, as long as you know. With those words, the man and woman remained in silent deadlock, bringing quiet to the cave. Yun Wanshang felt somewhat awkward. Although she was a core formation stage true immortal, having grown up in the immortal sects dedicated to cultivation since she was young, she knew even less about matters of men and women, about emotions, than an ordinary young girl. Could it be that the duel that night involved this woman fighting against someone else? Considering the situation, Lu Changxing mused internally. He also waved his hand, picking up and donning his clothes. Just then, a jade pendant flew steadily from the sky and landed in front of him. This jade pendant can conceal your aura. If you ever face a life-threatening crisis in the future, you may activate this pendant. Should you successfully reach the Foundation establishment, I may consider giving you a chance. Meanwhile, a cold and indifferent voice sounded in Lu Changxing's ears. It was Yun Wanshang's voice. Facing a life-threatening crisis, activate the jade pendant? Success in Foundation establishment, given a chance? Upon hearing these words, Lu Changxing picked up the jade pendant, his face lighting up with joy and excitement. It seemed this fairy wasn't as heartless as he thought, who would no longer recognize him once she had put on her skirt. Perhaps she was someone with a cold exterior but a warm heart. Lu Changxing still had confidence in reaching Foundation establishment. After all, he had the system on his side. As long as the child proved to be promising and diligent, what fairy or witch couldn't he, a father, marry? There and then, Lu Changxing bowed towards the sky. Thank you, fairy. I, Lu Changxing, will surely strive to cultivate to the Foundation establishment stage. However, there was no response from the heavens. Lu Changxing stood for a while, and when he received no reply and sensed the other party had truly left, he began to examine the jade pendant in his hand. The palm-sized pendant was painted with clouds and mists, and 9-colored radiance flowed within it. Lu Changxing couldn't discern the quality of the jade pendant. But he felt that a gift from a nascent soul immortal must be a top-grade magic artifact or a spiritual artifact. Who would have thought that I, Lu Changxing, would end up living off a woman? Lu Changxing thought to himself internally. Now, he seemed to have a nascent soul immortal as support. If he encountered any peril in the future, he could call upon a nascent soul immortal for help. However, he felt that if he really activated the pendant for help, it would probably be the end of his association with this colorfully robed woman. Only after his successful foundation establishment could he activate the pendant to seek her out and then have further interactions with her. Which was reasonable. The other party was a nascent soul immortal. And he was just a weakling in the chi refinement realm. Her willingness to give him a chance after he reached foundation establishment was already very generous. But if I want to officially marry her and have children, I'm afraid I'll at least have to reach the core formation stage, right? And I wonder if our 3 nights of effort could have resulted in a pregnancy? If so, any child born would surely be extraordinary, right? Lu Changxing secretly contemplated, and then shook his head. He was getting ahead of himself, thinking about her bearing children for him when there was not even the slightest sign this would happen. Moreover, for cultivators who did not wish to conceive, no matter what the effort, it would be in vain. Then, Lu Changxing turned his attention to the peach blossom goo in his spiritual sea and said, "You little thing have really outdone yourself, being so inconspicuous and unnoticed, yet causing such a big commotion when you do appear, huh?" The peach blossom goo feeds on the luck of romantic encounters. The more prosperous the romantic luck around the host, the faster the peach blossom goo grows. During these 3 days, not only did Lu Changxing himself gain an increase in his cultivation level, the peach blossom goo also rapidly grew, nearing the threshold of transformation. Even Lu Changxing, as naive as he was, knew that his recent streak of romantic luck couldn't be unrelated to the peach blossom goo. But this thing seems like a double-edged sword. After all, romantic luck, if not handled properly, can easily turn into a romantic calamity. Chapter 109, You Feel Wronged, I Feel Even More Wronged. Lu Changxing exhaled a long breath before checking the state of his cultivation level. To see the fruits of his efforts over the past 3 days. During the dual cultivation of joy in these 3 days, he could distinctly feel a light and ethereal spiritual energy moving within him. It caused his cultivation level to rise rapidly and filled his body with inexhaustible strength. Otherwise, after 3 days and nights without rest, Lu Changxing felt he really couldn't have withstood it. Lu Changxing saw that in his chi ocean core, where once there had been a trickle of spiritual energy, there was now a small stream. With a slight circulation of spiritual power, he immediately felt an inner surge like a flowing stream, far more vigorous than before. This was the manifestation of the 6th level energy refinement. And he had reached the peak of the 6th level. As long as he broke through the bottleneck from the middle stage to the later stage, he could advance from the 6th level to the 7th level energy refinement. At the peak of the 6th level energy refinement, in just 3 days' time, I've broken through from the 4th level to the peak of the 6th level. This speed is simply, relying on my own slow cultivation. It would take at least a decade to go from the 4th level to the peak of the 6th level, right? Moreover, the enhanced spiritual power doesn't have the slightest bit of hollowness. In fact, it is even more robust than before. Lu Changxing looked at the spiritual energy in his chi ocean core, filled with excitement. Immediately, his eyes brightened with joy and excitement. Not only have I made a breakthrough to the 6th level, but my 100 refinements treasure body art has also succeeded. The first layer has been cultivated. Lu Changxing's eyes sparkled with determination and spirit as he suddenly clenched his fist and struck fiercely towards the cave wall. Bang! That punch, like a heavy hammer, smashed into the wall, leaving behind a large crater with a network of dense cracks spreading and a shower of rocks falling from above. This punch, it's got to be worth 20 years of strength. Lu Changxing looked at the effect of his punch, his face full of delight. Then, as if thinking of something, he pulled out a flying sword from his storage bag. It was an inferior flying sword obtained from a robber cultivator. He then gently drew the flying sword across the skin of his finger. A faint resistance transmitted, leaving a white mark on his finger. If I apply force, it can still cut through. But this defensive power is decent. To truly become immune to a magic artifact with flesh alone, it's probably necessary to cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body technique to the 4th layer, right? Lu Changxing did not continue to experiment, feeling very satisfied with his current situation, extremely so. He felt better than ever before, as if he could entertain 10 women through the night. At this moment, Lu Changxing faintly sensed traces of a weak energy still roaming inside his body. He closed his eyes and quietly felt it. This energy, could it be the light and ethereal energy that entered my body during the dual cultivation? Could it still be in my body? Not only did this energy allow my cultivation level to break directly through to the 6th level energy refinement, but it also had an effect of marrow cleansing and nurturing the flesh. What exactly is this? Is it the effect of a cultivation technique, or could it be that she possesses some kind of spiritual body that's beneficial to dual cultivation? Lu Changxing sensed this energy, which he couldn't control, and speculated in his mind. He immediately dismissed it as a cultivation technique. After all, that kind of cultivation technique was usually for cauldron-based cultivation. And how could someone capable of reaching nascent soul immortal be cultivating such techniques? That left only the spiritual body. Lu Changxing, who read so much in his free time, knew that in the cultivation world, some cultivators not only possessed a spiritual root but also had some inherent spiritual body talents. Like the Gingjin body constitution. Cultivating the metal attribute cultivation technique not only allowed for a faster cultivation speed by several folds, but also the power exerted by the metal attribute cultivation techniques was also higher than that of ordinary cultivators. There was also something like a pure yang physique. If one cultivated the yang energy cultivation technique without breaking their body, they would make rapid progress, but once they did, not only would the effect be lost, they might also lose cultivation levels. There were also some other physiques beneficial to dual cultivation, like the charming female physique, primordial yin physique, and plain lady physique. Lu Changxing guessed that this woman in the colorful skirt might possess some kind of physique like that, which was why he could obtain so many benefits. Being able to cultivate to the nascent soul immortal, possessing a spiritual body, it does make sense. Lu Changxing murmured. Spiritual bodies were even rarer than spiritual roots. He read in books that even among cultivators, a spiritual body was 1 in 10,000. At the time, Lu Changxing had also thought that if his own child were to have a spiritual body, whether it could give him a boost and let him have a spiritual body too. Did she give me this jade pendant to hide this whiff of light spiritual energy, rather than to hide my cultivation level? Chapter 110, Fairies Cultivation. _1 Tall pines and verdant cypresses, on the 1,000 peaks where waterfalls descended and streams flowed, palace after palace was erected. In the magnificent palace at the peak, emptiness reigned, save for a colorfully dressed woman standing gracefully and poised. Master, at that moment, a beautiful woman with a graceful figure and white clothes billowing like sails entered the great hall. Looking at the woman in colorful clothes inside the hall, her beautiful and spirited eyes brightened as she gave a ceremonious bow, her voice sweet and gentle. Shiyu, you have arrived. Yun Wanshang turned around upon seeing her disciple, revealing a smile on her stunning face. She said to Xiao Shiyu in a voice tinged with authority, Shiyu, I have gathered all the medicinal ingredients needed for the red dust elixir, but I must ask you once more, have you really made up your mind? With your 4th grade spiritual root and the innate moonlight spirit body, even if you do not cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, you would still aspire to core formation. Yun Wanshang spoke thus. Her recent expedition to collect purple spirit liquid was for the sake of her disciples' cultivation, to refine an elixir medicine. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Shiyu lightly pressed her lips together, and a serious expression appeared on her enchanting face. Then, with resolute eyes, she looked at Yun Wanshang and saluted with hands cupped. Master, Shiyu has decided, and I will have no regrets. Alas, looking at Xiao Shiyu with her determined expression, Yun Wanshang sighed softly in her heart. She was uncertain whether mentioning the supreme forgetful love technique to her disciple back then was right or wrong. The supreme forgetful love technique was a cultivation method she had acquired in a secret realm. Despite its power, it also had obvious side effects. After cultivating it, one would gradually become indifferent, unmoved by emotions or disturbed by feelings. Ordinarily, Xiao Shiyu was lively and clever, much to her liking, but if she were to cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, she feared Shiyu's demeanor would be completely altered. Nevertheless, Yun Wanshang did not offer any further persuasion. She gave a slight nod and said, "Good, since you have decided, I will ask Elder Yun to refine the red dust elixir for you." She also understood that even with Xiao Shiyu's talent and gifts, core formation was only a hope. But if she could master the supreme forgetful love technique, it would no longer be just a hope. As long as she did not die prematurely, she would certainly achieve core formation. There might even be hope for further advancements. Chu Zhenjin and several wives were at her side, watching over the child and chatting with her. Husband. The women showed delight at Lu Changsheng's return. Lu Changsheng nodded slightly, then said to Lu Miaoyun, "Miaoyun, I apologize for coming back late due to some mishaps on the way." He had promised Lu Miaoyun that he would arrive before the birth of their child. Although he initially planned to make it in time, due to unforeseen occurrences, he was delayed by half a day. There was also some guilt in his heart. "It's all right, husband." Lu Miaoyun, having just given birth, was still somewhat weak and her complexion was a bit pale. She bore no blame for Lu Changsheng, and instead looked at him with concern, inquiring, "Husband, what mishap did you encounter on the road? Was there any danger?" "I just ran into a few minor robber cultivators, but with the protection talismans from grandmother, there was no real danger." You're tuning in to the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.